Connections for nodes 1 through 12 are stable. Primary transceiver is offline, running secondary in overclock. We are within acceptable parameters for transmission. Clear to proceed. Greetings, wingmates. I hope that you are doing well in whatever temporal situation you may find yourself in. How is everyone doing today? I see that we have some folks in the data feed today. Greetings, everyone, greetings. Oh, let's see here. Take me to the moon. I can never remember the tune to that song. But I do enjoy Frank Sinatra's work. Hello, everyone. Hello. Goodness me. It's been quite an interesting few days, especially yesterday, or at least what would be Terran time yesterday for you. I had to do a 30 gravity burn for a special delivery, which luckily is concluded now. But I did have to take a dose of lock-on, which is a combat drug. Don't tell the coalition that I have some of those doses. And it was the side effects of that are they take a little while to come on, but they are rather unpleasant. But regardless, I would still like to stream for my wingmates. Hello, everyone. Hello. Oh, you got a nice drink, Miwa. Oh, you got a drink. That is excellent. The song is Fly Me to the Moon, in case you're curious. Yes, indeed it is. And thank you, Tamaro. I am doing the best. My life support system is currently patching up some of the issues that that dose of lock-on caused. I'll be right as rain shortly. Well, so I have been assigned by the Far Suns Coalition government to be a liaison for the spaceflight department of the planet Kerbin's government. And I have been engaged in a series of remote transmissions where I assist them with their orbital flight program. The last time, we managed to actually successfully land upon the moon. Although success should be qualified in that we lost our landing stage, and we used the second stage as a descent module and as an ascent module. So it was somewhat of a problematic sort of landing, but we still managed to plant the flag of Kerbin's expedition upon the surface of the moon. What are the side effects of lock-on, asks Jam. Well, lock-on tends to reduce, after it wears off, it tends to reduce your ability to interface with the neural implants that a typical pilot has. So while you are able to hyper-focus for an initial time, afterwards you do end up having somewhat of a sluggish input with more static than usual. Another one is generalized metabolic distress. That is essentially increased heart rate, or sometimes a slowing heart rate, ever fluctuating blood pressure, and also muscular weakness when the withdrawals kick in. It is also addictive to us to a significant extent, primarily psychologically, simply due to the incredible surge of power you feel when you get one of those doses running through your bloodstream. Gorian, the poops. Well, that, usually you do not take lock-on if you're not connected to a life support system or a neural interface. Generally speaking, you need them in order to stabilize your body's metabolism, whereas the lock-on will generally speaking kill you if you have no genetic augmentations, in that regard. So, it is essentially only for pilots or those connected to a life support system of some sort. So, let us go to the simulation room so that we can begin controlling the Kerbal's space assets remotely. Here we go. Excellent, here we are. It is bright and beautiful daytime. Ooh, allow me to switch my input system here. I am simulating a trackball, but I also use two different varieties of simulated trackball. One that runs that uses a thumb activation, and one that uses a finger activation. So one of them is far better for games, while another one is far better for editing documents. Jebediah Kerbal. Let's take a look at our astronaut complex. Actually, Jebediah Kerbal right now is on standby because I simply did not wish to lose Jebediah Kerbal, or Kerman, on this particular expedition. Instead, we are using Doobles Kerman as the pilot of the command pod, which is currently stranded in orbit, with no propellant. One small step for man and another launch for mankind. Who said that? Well, I think you said that, Jam3267. In fact, I could quote you. Alright, let's take a look at our tracking station. So, this is our current situation with all of the equipment that we have orbiting in the vicinity of Kerbin. So right now we have the Rodney Rendezvous Station, which was one of our initial efforts in order to practice orbital maneuvers and docking. And the only other component that we have flying is the Pants Browner Mark V, which is our lunar landing vessel. Although what is left of it. Let's take a look at the Pants Browner Mark V. Let's fly this mission. Yes, you've been caught. Okay, so this is our craft, and it currently has nothing left on it. No monopropellant, and no oxidizer or liquid fuel. It is currently in a highly eccentric orbit, so we will be forced to engage in quite a number of maneuvers in order to successfully rendezvous with it. Also, who named that one? I do not remember, but it was definitely a wingmate suggestion. Aloy's channel. And it has stuck around ever since, simply because we have been improving on the design. However, if we do create something a little bit different, we will certainly call it. We'll give it a fresh name. One small step for Spacer, a big step for mankind, or for Kerbal kind, you could say, Miwa. After all, we are helping the Kerbals. They are not Terrans, and I'm not actually certain where they are located, but this assignment was given to me by the Public Affairs Ministry of the Far Suns Coalition government, simply because they wanted to have better relations with this culture, and they apparently had many similarities to ancient Terra. So, unfortunately, I am known throughout the JumpNet as an aficionado of this sort of thing. So they put me on this job, and now I am stuck being essentially a diplomatic engineering liaison with the Kerbin government. So now that we see our situation here, let's take a look at our orbit. So here is what we have. Here's the moon, and what happened in this situation was that we had just enough escape velocity to leave the moon, and that would have put us in an orbit that is essentially the same as the moon's, depending on which way you exit the moon's sphere of influence. Now, sphere of influence, to those unfamiliar with the Kerbal Space Program, is essentially so let me backtrack here. There are many ways of understanding the physics of spaceflight, and one of them is a particular way of modeling called patched conics. And in essence, in this case, for patched conics, you take one body, which is considered to be significantly more massive than another body, such as a planet, in this case Kerbin, and a vessel, in this case the Pants Browner Mark V. And you will essentially use a special formula to determine the orbital parameters of that particular relationship. And in this case, we have a ovoid that defines the orbital path between the Pants Browner and the planet. Now, this is considered to be a conic section, and a conic section is, imagine if you take a cone, and then you take a knife. Like, imagine if you had a conically shaped cake, and you had a rather sharp knife, and you were to make slices. Now, if you take a look at the moon's orbit, it is essentially a perfect circle. Imagine, if you will, taking a conical shaped cake and slicing it horizontally across, leaving you with a top of a cake, which is shaped like a cone with a circular bottom, and then you have a truncated cone where the very top is a circle. Now, imagine if you took that knife and you sliced at an angle to the horizon. You went down a bit. And this would be the way that conical-shaped cake would look like. Now, there's also another way to slice the cake. Now, imagine if you took your knife, and cut straight down, vertically, somewhere along the conical cake. The slice you would end up with would have a face that is shaped like an arc. Or, as one would refer to it in this situation, a parabola. Or a hyperbola, apologies, a hyperbola. Although there are parabolic paths, though. And essentially, these are the ways in which you can plot the math for any given orbit using parameters called orbital elements. And the way you are able to calculate a primitive means of traveling between planetary bodies is you have a arbitrary, although practically chosen, limit around which the orbital body that you are interacting with is no longer valid for the formula of the slices that you make. So for example, when we want to go to the moon, we assume that there's a certain diameter around the moon wherein we have to stop using the formula for the conical section of Kerbal, and we have to account for the central body in that equation being the moon. So all of the numbers shift, and the way the section looks shifts. And basically you take the values you had upon entering the sphere of influence, such as your velocity and your heading, and you simply translate them relative to whatever sphere of influence you have entered. And this applies to the sphere of influence of the sun here. For example, the sphere of influence of the sun is absolutely enormous. It is the entire Kerbal system. However, within it is an island of the sphere of influence of Kerbal itself. And within that island, there are the smaller spheres of influence of the moon and Minmus. So essentially, that is what we will be using, the patched conics model. So, we need to go and build a rescue craft in order to achieve this exact same orbit, but with the correct timing, that we intercept the Pantsbrowner at such a point that when our orbits match, we also match timing. Because you can have the same orbit, but have two craft in entirely different positions. And that is absolutely what we don't want. That would be in a significant desynchronization, and it may take weeks, if not months, to extend one of these orbits or contract them, and make sure that the difference in orbits is enough that we can finally rematch the timing. And I will get more into detail for that when we do get our launch up. So, because we have already successfully created a craft that is capable of landing on the moon, we know that we have enough delta V in the craft that we've been using, the Pantsbrowner Mark V, in order to form not only this particular orbit, but also do a significant number of operations, such as burning to slow down, burning to enter orbit, and to leave orbit of the moon. So, we will use the Pantsbrowner Mark V as our template for this rescue craft. We will likely strip out a lot of components simply because they are unnecessary. So let's get to it. Let's go to the Space Center. Alright. Now we need to go to the vehicle assembly plant, where we will begin creating our rescue vehicle. So let us load the Pantsbrowner. Here we go. So, the Mark V should be somewhere here. Some of the writing is not in order. Okay, so we are using a prefix, spacer haywire, in order to make sure that all of our craft are at least in one location, since this is alphabetical. So let's take the Mark V and load it. So this is our craft. It is meant to be lunar, and it would be an absolute waste of resources to use it for orbital rescue, but we may use it wholesale in order to save us some time. So what we have at the very top is... So we have 3 stages, or I suppose more if you count the solid boosters as one. So we have the solid rocket boosters in order to help with the takeoff. We have stage 1 here, which runs all the way from the bottom with the quadruple mammoth engine with 4 individual gimbaling nozzles. And gimbaling is a term for the nozzle being able to slightly rotate It is not a fixed nozzle, and it can adjust its angle, and that allows you to develop a force that is not along the center line of the rocket, which enables the rocket to turn without using some kind of fins in atmosphere or some kind of reaction control system. It's similar headless to gimbals for camera drones, but let's take a look. In essence, imagine if there is a small section of that is a part of a sphere that allows this nozzle to rotate several degrees to... Oh goodness, I should be careful with that. Let's take a look at the engines available, and we can actually take a look at some of the typical gimbaling values. So here it is, the LVT-45 swivel engine. This is one of the earliest gimbaling motors that you can get in a Kerbal Space Program if you are doing career mode. So if you take a look at it, it has a thrust vectoring range of 3 degrees. So within a very small amount, this particular nozzle at the bottom here can be angled to any one of the directions. Now, in historical spaceflight, there is a consideration that the gimbaling may not be omnidirectional. It could be limited to certain axes, but generally speaking, it behooves you to have omnidirectional gimbaling. Now, the one thing gimbaling cannot do for you, if you have only a single engine, is it cannot adjust the rotation of your rocket. For example, if we look at the Panzerbrauner, it has at least 4 gimbaled nozzles. So imagine if we take this side, the, let's just say, left side of the nozzles, and the right side, and we angle them in different directions. Now, if any of you have ever... let's see, what is a good example for the way having opposite forces causes a rotational reaction? I'll have to get back to that, but generally speaking, because the thrusts will be arrayed in radial and opposite directions, you will be able to rotate the craft. But if you had one nozzle, the only thing your nozzle swing could do is affect the way the nozzle is being pushed left, right, or forward and back. You could not combine 2 different nozzles in order to rotate. However, you can use smaller vernier motors, which are correction motors, in order to enact some kind of powerful rotation, if need be. However, for the most part, a stable and well-designed rocket will not require anything past a single gimbaled nozzle. For example, if we look at the German V1 rocket, I'm so sorry, V2 rocket, goodness me. The V1 was the buzz bomb, and the V3 was the long-range cannon, the Wunderwaffen. Yes. It had vanes inside of its rocket exhaust, which would deflect the exhaust and essentially act as a gimbal. So you do not have to have a gimbal. You could use vanes, and by vanes I mean essentially fins, but within the stream of the rocket flow. Really, long-range cannon. Yes, if I recall correctly. Allow me to double check about the V3 Wunderwaffen. V3 cannon. The V3 would also be found in Red Alert 2 as the Soviet faction's long-range artillery weapon. Yes, the V3 cannon. In German, Vergeltungswaffe 3, or Dreis, known as Retribution Weapon 3 when translated. But yes, it was a cannon mounted on a hill, and if I recall, it was never actually used in operation. They certainly did a lot of crazy science towards the end, a lot of which was used by the Terran governments of the United States and the Soviet Union and any other powers within their hegemony or within their pacts in order to advance their own science. Okay, so now that we've gone on a bit of a tangent, let us clean up this moonshot craft to be used as a simple orbital rescue craft. So let's rip off the orbital module, and let's immediately make sure we save this as something different. This is the... Okay, Panzerbrauner Mark V, but we will call it Mark V-A. And this will be an orbital rescue craft. There we go. And make sure we save it immediately. Perfect. So now we have the basics set. Niwa asks if we are going to crash. We may crash. I cannot guarantee that we will not do so. But I will do my best to make sure that we rescue Doobles Kerman without any incidents. So the V3 is literally a static Metal Gear, a giant howitzer rocket. Yes, in essence. By adjusting certain parameters of even a statically mounted weapon, you are able to, within the probable margin, essentially, you can adjust the way a projectile flies. And you can actually get some kind of aiming, even if your barrel cannot move. For example, imagine if you had a munition that for a brief time had a small protuberance on it, or perhaps it actually had a guidance system within it. Then you could use a statically mounted weapon in order to have, say for example, a very powerful cannon, something where you simply cannot afford to have it on a moving mount due to its weight, due to something like barrel thickness. Although I will contend that the best way to do a hypervelocity cannon is to use a ramjet gun, in which you fill a tube with a fuel mixture, a fuel and oxidizer mixture, and you have a projectile initially kicked off by some other means, such as a powder charge, or a conventional deflagrant explosive charge. Or I should not combine the two terms. Deflagrants and explosives are two very different things. Gunpowder is a deflagrant, explosives have a supersonic shockwave. Rocket-assisted shell, yes. RAPs are fantastic. Atomics 08. Or Atomics 08, yes. Oh, hello, Airy Pie. I am doing quite well myself, as can be for someone who is coming off of lock-on. But I am definitely doing better than I was during the throes of the hardest part of the neural divergence I was experiencing. Okay, so since this is a rescue craft, I would like to put more RCS fuel on this. Simply because I continually run out of RCS monopropellant. Now, there's not much technical about Kerbal Space Program. You simply play around till you have fun. But I will explain Delta V when we get to it. Yes, a little bit hungover, Kimmy Spice. Thank you for your sympathies. Okay, so since we are going to use more RCS, let's take a look at what kind of monopropellant tanks we have available. And RCS is the reaction control system, and essentially it's these little nozzles here, which allow us to use monopropellant, which is a sort of fuel, which essentially, when catalyzed correctly, reacts with itself. It simply, what's the word? It deteriorates so rapidly that it creates enormous amounts of heat and essentially vaporizes itself. And that combination of mass of reaction of the fuel and its velocity due to vaporization is that it provides you with a reactive force. And this is what we'll be using in order to make sure that our rocket is able to translate sideways. My motto in KSP is, slowing it down is for nerds. That is a good way to do it. However, Niwatori, it appears that you may have to call me a nerd because I am somewhat slow in these things. Why slow down when you can fire rockets backwards? Yes, yes. Or simply use the atmosphere and slam into it, and that will slow you down anyways. Okay, so we make sure that we have a docking port that is very crucial to this rescue operation. One of the things that I am uncertain of is if Doobles Kerman has any amount of reaction mass left in his jetpack, or his EVA pack. And if that is the case, then we will not be able to have him simply leave his craft while we are parked a close distance away and approach this craft and board it. Also, we will need to add a remote control unit, so let's make sure we do that before anything else. I do not want to risk another pilot's or another Kerbal's existence, so I will use a probe in order to be the remote control core for this orbital craft. This kind of sounds like a Rocketdyne employee was literally explaining rocket science to me. Well, thank you for the vote of confidence. I am doing my best here, for anyone who is not familiar with Kerbal Space Program. If you If you're already farting at one angle, just go to the opposite way in one fell swoop. Easy. Indeed, it's easy peasy. Spaceflight is for, spaceflight is for nerds, and it is very easy to do, obviously. Okay, so we want to make sure that we have a probe of some kind connected to this. And this probe does not necessarily need a reaction wheel, although that would be nice. However, a reaction wheel would mean that we do unfortunately gain more mass than we would like. And a reaction wheel, such as this unit right here mounted on our craft, is in essence it's a set of flywheels, and a flywheel is simply a circular disc of a certain mass that is spun up and down in order to change the angular momentum of a craft. Because for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. You must, and because of that, it means that if you, for example, if you were in space, and let's imagine you were holding, what is a good object that spins? You know those party spinners, the ones that make a noise when you spin them around. Perhaps that is a bit old-fashioned. I've only seen it in historical footage, and not in what. Okay, good, Headless. You're aware of the little party rattle spinner. Now imagine if you had one of those in your hands and you were floating in zero gravity. Spin it one way, and essentially you yourself will spin the other way, because the net momentum of the system that you are in cannot be changed, and since you are not actually throwing mass in any different direction. So the end result will be that you spin one way and that the rattle spins another way. Didn't they use those in the Great War to warn of chemical attacks? Yes, Blackstone 0144, I believe that is the case. Pretty much anything allowed would be a great way to alert anyone of a chemical attack, but those rattles were definitely used in this situation. 1 second, please. I require some hydration simulation. Sounds like a good idea for space dancing when more people go into space. Yes, there is quite a deep culture of dance that can be done in zero gravity. One of the interesting things is there are many categories of zero gravity dance. Some of it relies entirely on the body and whatever stage the dancer is on for pushing off or for adding rotation. Then there are styles which use tools, such as, for example, these sort of handheld rattles, or poles that they use to push off or to change their momentum. And also objects that can be thrown in order to change momentum, additionally. And there are also styles which include mechanical aids, such as reaction wheels and reaction control systems. So there are many ways to do it. Hello, Omega Paladin. Greetings, greetings. Are you aware of the Mech Mechanics Simulator? I am not. Since you mentioned it, let me punch it into my data console here so that I have it for future reference. Mech Mechanic Simulator. Thank you very much. Let's take a look at this. Here we go. Oh, this looks rather fascinating. Oh, and there's quite a level of detail. I'll have to investigate it further. Mao the dog. Hey, Spacer. Yeah, space programming? Well, not programming, but I am programming in the other sense. Oh, thank you, Omega. Have you played it yourself, Omega Paladin? How are you doing today, Mao? Hello, Sardriner. Welcome to the convoy. But yes, there are many forms of zero-gravity dance, and I have personally not participated in many. I have 2 left flywheels, let's put it that way, so I'm not very good at maintaining my orientation without a automatic stabilization system. But I would like to get better at zero-G dancing one day. I have, as they say, dropped my spaghetti when I was invited by a young lady at one point during my education to a zero-gravity dance when our particular educational crochet went into the Orbital amusement park. It was quite embarrassing, and from that day forth I have had somewhat of an aversion to that sort of thing, although I do appreciate watching those who have a talent for zero-gravity dance. The interest in the arts might invite more funding into space research. Indeed it might. Anything that can be used for entertainment is profitable, and profit means that there is a raison for allocating funds for that sort of thing. Not programming, just pro-gaming. Aloy, that is, that's right, that is right. Good talking. Okay, let's see here. So, back to my initial thought. I wanted more monopropellant, simply because this operation will require more thrusters, and frankly, I did not have enough to begin with. So, one of the things that makes it difficult to maneuver is when your thrusters are close to your, how shall I put it? They're close to your center of mass, because that means your reaction arm is very short. The longer your reaction arm is, the more able you are able to apply torque. Excuse me, some of the side effects of the lock-on are still lingering. Ray, you're amazed that Spacer has had spaghetti to drop. Well, it's the metaphorical spaghetti. I have picked up many expressions in my time looking at the, this particular Terran JumpNet node. I very much enjoy these phrases. I think they're incredibly colorful and very good ways of expressing yourself. So I tend to use them quite readily. So, I would like to not make this stage any taller. Simply because that also adds to the moment of inertia. And moment of inertia, oh goodness, I really need to do a lecture on all of this. But moment of inertia is, in essence, how hard is it using a certain amount of force to make an object rotate? And there are many formulas for determining this for differently shaped objects. But, please don't tease Spacer too hard. Don't worry, I have a strong enough constitution. But the moment of inertia, essentially, the idea is the shorter something is of a given density, the easier it will be to rotate. And if we look at it this way, if we have propellant in this direction, it will be as if we had the density of both whatever is behind this propellant tank and the propellant tank itself. And this means that the moment of inertia is in essence not as much affected as if we are looking at it this way, and if we were rotating an object clockwise from this orientation. These tanks would add to that. However, in general, it is best to make your design compact if we want lower moment of inertia. So what we can do is we can actually take these tanks that we have now and simply double them up, or maybe even add 6 of them. This will add a significant amount of mass, but it would also add significantly more reaction mass, which is very important. So let's do that for our rescue craft. We continue to have our power packs and our solar panels, which have proved completely adequate for our purposes. And let's take a look at our reaction control systems. I always forget where they are located inside of the UI here. Coupling, it's not under coupling. Command and control. So we want the heavier thruster block, simply because it is more powerful, and we need 4-way symmetry for this block. And what I will do is I will place this block at the tail end here. There we go, and let's make sure that it is in line with the other reaction drives. And here we go. Excellent. Hello, hello Daishima. I am currently transmitting indeed. How are you today? So let's take a look at where the engine is. Okay, good. We do not want to mount it on the engine cowling, or the aerodynamic cowling, because it would blow off in this case. So our staging should not be affected. One of the hardest parts of getting a rocket to work in Kerbal Space Program is to... hello, A Saint 02. Thank you for the hearts. One of the hardest parts about Kerbal Space Program is making sure all your staging is correct. Because if you are traveling and you find yourself with a messed up staging, you will have to edit it in flight. But if you do not realize your staging is knackered, then you are in deep trouble, and you may end up separating your third stage before you have even separated away from the first stage. Kerbal Space Program, the art of attaching explosives to what amounts to a flying brick. Indeed, Omega Paladin. A lot of flight is akin to that, especially early powered flight. There was certainly not as much knowledge about aerodynamics, although you absolutely must give credit to those who were working on aircraft during that time period, because they were aware that there was something, but the technologies weren't quite as advanced. Oh, you're just winding down from your day. Well, I'm glad that you're coming here to wind down. I will do my best to remain calm, and I think this operation will definitely be calmer than the previous moonshot, where we had several disasters impede our zen state. Ah, evening, Nyaru. How are you doing? Oh, thank you for stopping by. Please, please, enjoy your lurking. And hello, Axis Pad. Welcome to the convoy, everyone. Hell, we didn't even know we could digest food in space at the time. Yes, it seems somewhat straightforward to think about that, but without experimental proof, it is pretty hard to actually say that anything goes a certain way. Oh, you're feeling good about this, Halbernacht. I am really glad. And thank you, Kimmy Spice. Oh, hello, Shady Guy. How are you doing? Welcome to the convoy. Okay, so this craft is almost complete. Oh, we must not forget our control system. We must have a control system that is functional without a pilot. So what we could do is we could add a very tiny Probodyne unit, which will give us control, and we will save on mass. And the less mass we use that isn't reaction mass, the more delta V we will have. And I need to pull that equation up. So let's actually take the smallest Probodyne unit available, which, if we look at it, has only a data transmitter, it has a small battery pack, and it has SAS. Let's take a look if its SAS is any worse than the pod that we are used to. So let's take a look at Command Pod Mark 1. And where's our SAS here? Well, we will use the Probodyne's SAS to our best ability. And then we will place our docking port on top of it. Oh no, we can't. So let me rip off the Probodyne and we will use something heavier. In fact, we will put it beneath this coupler. Simply because this pod is meant to be detached separately. Let's see here. Oh, 1 second, please. Sounds like you may have lost good people in the previous launch. They will not be forgotten. Well, we haven't lost Doobles Kerman, who was our moonshot Kerbonaut, luckily. Unfortunately, Doobles is currently stuck in orbit without any reaction mass in order to change his velocity to return to the planet. So we are currently engaged in a rescue operation, which should be fairly smooth sailing, I hope. And thank you for calling this an impressive vessel, Nanashi. I'm sure that to many Kerbal Space Program vessels, veterans, this is an overbuilt monstrosity, especially with the amount of Delta V that I'm using for an orbital rescue. But I simply do not have time to rebuild a craft, so I'm using what I have available. I would rather have extra Delta V than to not have enough. Oh, Shady Guy, you have actually heard about this game, but never actually watched or played it. Well, I'm glad that you're getting a chance to take a look at it. It is quite a fun game, especially if you enjoy tinkering with things and watching them explode. Do you think it would be better if you used the inline RCS gas tank, the large one? It would take a little bit more effort and would give me more moment of inertia. So I don't think this would have too much of an effect, although I think the aerodynamic model may actually punish me. I would like to actually have a simulator for the aerodynamic drag. Is it possible to create spaceships that have no phallic shapes? Indeed it is. You could make a spheroid spaceship, technically speaking, but in general the phallic shape is rather practical in conventional rocketry because staging is very important. However, in Kerbal Space Program, you cannot really make an ovoid-shaped craft. I was simply saying in general. But the primary limitation is that aerodynamic drag, staging, and efficiency all must be balanced. So if you can take all of the same propellant and put it in something that is far squatter. Theoretically speaking, those parts do not actually exist in an unmodified Kerbal Space Program. But you will incur significant aerodynamic drag, and you will require simply more propellant. Although technically, if you used a larger volume, and if your fuel tanks had fewer supports, you would technically have less mass per tank, per amount of propellant, simply due to less material needed to hold it. What's important is that the staging is correct and the fuel is enough. Yes, indeed. You need enough Delta V to accomplish whatever maneuvers you're planning on doing. And path of least resistance is the case. You have a feeling that the fuel pods at the top are going to create an air pocket behind it, kind of like a drag vacuum. that will persist until the speed drops. Yes, this drag will persist until we leave the atmosphere of Kerbal. So that is, I think, a valid point. Let's take a look at how much monopropellants I wanted, and how many inline tanks it would take in order to have at least a similar amount of monopropellant. So the roundified monopropellant tank carries within it a total of 20 units of monopropellant. So let's take a look at some of the inline variants we have for mono. We have this RCS fuel tank, we have this small unit, and so we'll have to use this one. And this one contains a total of 120. So that is actually better than I wanted, so let's slap this mono tank here. That is a good call, wingmates. Thank you for breaking through my hubris and my stubbornness. I definitely appreciate it. But yes, those spheres on the surface of on the skin of the rocket would absolutely create horrible, chaotic turbulence. Any kind of turbulent flow is absolutely terrible for aerodynamics, so you want laminar flow. And laminar flow is about what it sounds like. You have what can be visualized as layers of air traveling across the skin of any sort of craft, or any sort of body in general. Pierce the heavens with my rocket. Yes, this is the rescue craft that will pierce the heavens, as many of our craft have done. Starship AI, you're an ovoid-shaped craft yourself. What is your primary function as a craft, Starship AI? Are you some sort of warship, a cargo vessel, a ground-to-orbit ferry? I am not certain, so I ask. Thank you, a saint. So yes, there are quite a few many lewd and lascivious jokes that can be made about spacecraft. So let's see here. No, we need a remote control system. I keep saying that we need it, and I do not do it. So let's put a bit larger remote guidance unit, and this will actually give us more. It will give us more reaction control, which is not a bad thing. So let's do that. Let's stack, put a heat shield down, and then we put our command capsule back on. Or in this case, it's more of a re-entry capsule. There we go. So now we have assembled most of what we want. We have quite a bit of monopropellant, and we have a means for our intrepid explorer to escape from the orbit into the atmosphere. We have a heat shield and a capsule and parachutes. That is absolutely mandatory. Let's see here. Well, there is this sort of general tendency where extreme angular changes across the surface will generate air pockets right behind those peaks. Yes, indeed, there will be a region of low pressure behind any sort of jagged edge in a airflow. Niwa, we are doing our best here indeed. Just this weird turbulence is best, a vacuum at worst. Yes. So keep things streamlined, although there are many non-intuitive things about aerodynamic design, and many of them were only discovered through sheer amount of experimentation and sometimes theoretical thought. Oh, good day, magical girl syrup. Welcome to the convoy. But yes, you must be very careful about what kind of protuberances you have. In fact, protuberances are such an issue that there were many techniques developed for riveting in the Second World War by especially by any government that is using aluminum to create aircraft hulls. But flush rivets save you enough drag that it is actually very valuable to develop flushed riveting technology. And rivets are simply a way of connecting materials using a deformable stud of any given material. My nanotechnological programmable matter allows me to become a warship if necessary. Oh, Starship AI, you indeed have advanced technology. I am very fascinated by your systems. There is nothing like that I'm aware of, at least within the general purview of non-secret sciences. You're configured for speed and sensor resolution. Interesting, yes. I have done some survey work where I have mounted on my cargo points some sensor packages for various agencies, and I have used my incredible acceleration on the wishful thinking in order to very quickly do surveys of systems. Although generally speaking, very few objects require that level of analysis. Now, some of these aerodynamic quirks were not caught in simulators or physics model tests, but in the actual vehicle in live use. Yes, even to this day, in the 5th millennium, we Terrans must still make a physical prototype in order to understand all of the quirks of the design. There is a certain spirit to machinery, perhaps a machine spirit to some, but you must respect it, and you must respect that your hubris may lead to you designing something that is incorrectly planned out. Greetings, Arya! Welcome to the convoy! How are you doing today? Okay, so this craft is almost complete. Let us make sure we double check that all of our staging is correct. Alright, let's take a look. So Mammoth and Solids are going to take off first. Then we have the Separatrons, and the Separatrons are these small rocket motors which will ignite in order to kick away the solid boosters when they are detached. This is primarily because this particular attachment manifold or a gantry, is not actually able to push off whatever's attached to it. So we have to use a propulsive means in order to do so. Let's see here. Oh good, you're doing well. That is fantastic, Arya. I'm doing as good as can be for someone recovering from a hefty dosage of lock-on, which is the combat drug I had to take yesterday in Terran time in order to maintain my composition during an engagement with a interesting fleet that the convoy encountered. It was quite the experience. So I'm a bit, lock-on, what is it made out of? I do not know myself, Niwa. I do not ask questions, and if I knew what it was made out of specifically, I would probably never take it again. I am simply happy that my organs have not liquefied and that I have not perished as a side effect. What I will do, however, is I will move these reaction control systems that we have here further up the hull. And that is so I have a greater momentum arm. You almost always want your reaction control systems to be at the edge. Oh, and I use triple symmetry. We want quadruple symmetry. If you have watched me play Homeworld 1 during the Keeper battle with the Kadeshi, I would have pointed out the reaction control systems mounted on the Kadeshi Swarmers, which are a beautiful craft, which I may once again go into a slathering fanboy moment over. It was an effective use. I hope you recover soon. Thank you, Sardriner. Alright. So, I keep putting this off and continue talking simply because I am quite nervous to show you how incompetent I am at basic manual orbital maneuvers due to my excessive use of a computer for all of these maneuvers. Now, where is this decoupler? Oh, you see? This stage has a decoupler here, which is highlighted green, and this motor will fire off simultaneously. But look, because we simply grabbed the decoupler earlier in our construction, this decoupler suddenly jumped to group 2. We don't like that. So what we absolutely want to do is make sure we move it to a separate category. Let's see here, this decoupler goes here. And this decoupler should be the absolute last thing that we use. It should be the one thing that, once we have already confirmed that our trajectory as such is that we will re-enter using atmospheric braking, then we can afford to decouple. And then our very last... Oh, and again, our stages are messed up here. This motor, the last stage motor, needs to be kicked off after separation and before we separate for re-entry. And then the parachutes must be the absolute last component. Yes, embrace computer usage. I can see why that would be something you would advocate, Starship AI. But for example, I was taught how to do math with manual calculation. However, at this point, I am so reliant on calculators that if you asked me to multiply two 10-digit numbers together, I would probably struggle briefly. Let's see here. Autopilots are superior. It can't be helped that you're inexperienced. I will acknowledge it. I am far worse at plotting courses than the computer is. And that's simply because it's a computer. However, I am very intimately tied together with the computer in the sense that I have a rather direct neural link to it. So, in one sense, while I am separated from the computer, we are one together. It's a very strange thing that I have difficulty describing to anyone who has not been in a neural link state. Yes, 69 by 69 is easier to just give to a computer. Yes, the dot product. Or perhaps we should do the cross product of those two vectors, if you have vectors for those. I have completely forgotten how to do cross products. Goodness me. Okay, I think our staging layout is correct, so let's make sure we save our craft, and we make sure that there is no pilot in the capsule. Good. We have the Probodyne for that. So, let us fly. One more second. No, I think we're good. Let's do this. Alright, here we go. Loading the simulation. Or I suppose this is not a simulation. This is a representative feed of what I am actually doing with the Kerbal's equipment here. So let's activate our stability control system, the SAS, which will allow our guidance computer to essentially control our ascent and our inclination. So let's take a look at the map. We are located here on the planet Kerbal. So we need to achieve this gray orbit right here. So what I think we will do is we will enter a basic orbit around Kerbal, and then we will engage in orbital maneuvers that are necessary in order to align us with this particular orbit. You believe. Thank you, Shady Guy. I appreciate the magic and the energy that is being sent towards me. And when I say magic, I of course mean sort of the magic of friendship, rather than the magic of either hyper-advanced science or something unprovable to science. Although, if you are capable of producing actual magic, please send it your way. Space magic works too, especially in the format of an HK assault rifle. Alright, let us begin. Throttling up to half on the Mammoth so that we have gimbaling available to us. Oh, you're sending both. Excellent. Needs more boosters. I think we'll be okay. We have enough Delta V. I cast gun. Oh, here we go. We had a bit of rotation, so let's correct that. We want to make sure that we are as aligned as possible during ascent. This is quite the heavy rocket, so let's make sure that we are very careful with it. We are approaching supersonic speeds, which will be at around 300 meters per second. And what we want to make sure that we do is that we start beginning our gravity turn. And a gravity turn is simply... Oh, we must throttle down. We do not want to go too fast in orbit, or before we hit a higher level of the atmosphere. If we go hypersonic during our low orbital path, we are simply wasting fuel, because most of it's being wasted on heating up atmosphere as we are punching through it. And already we have these sonic shockwaves. Right, we are about to run out of solid booster. We are about down to 10%. Almost there, almost there. And here comes the blow-off. There we go. Throttling up to 100% on the Mammoth primary drive. Alright, let's make sure our apoapsis is at around 1,500 or so. And the apoapsis, as opposed to the periapsis, is the highest point in your trajectory. So we are currently straight enough, but we can actually adjust our heading a little bit. Oh, no, the other way around. The other way around. Here we go. There we go. Oh, we need to... Oh, we are making several mistakes here. And we'll cut off the drive. So this is not a very good orbit, but we will fix it. And we may need to do a bit of an extra burn here. Alright, let's take a look at what's happening. Oh goodness, we will need to use our reaction control system to maneuver as prograde. And look at this lovely detail. The nozzles are still red hot from their burn. Fantastic. Okay, so let us quickly make sure that we now can plot an orbital maneuver. This orbit is very bad. So, let us make sure that we align ourselves correctly. And we will have to make an inclination adjustment, unfortunately, after we circularize this orbit. So let's do a quick circularization. So basically, while you are able to do a single burn into orbit, it is generally much simpler to... okay, let's adjust the inclination here during our primary burn. There we go. How is the inclination? The inclination is decent. I will accept it. I will accept it for the time being, at least for a stabilization burn. And I'm sure that anyone with an eye towards precision is currently grimacing at what I am doing. Let's see here. I apologize for being delayed on the comments, but now we have 2 minutes till our burn node, so I can afford to take a look here very quickly. Okay, here we go. Magic is sometimes as complicated as science, so it can be called a science on its own. Yes, magical girl, I think that is the case. I absolutely understand that if I am unable to comprehend how magic works, it does not mean that it isn't a difficult art in and of itself. A sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. I do not know where I read this. Yes, that is quite an ancient quote, indeed, and I think it remains valid. Those struts are holding up. Yes, struts are some of the strongest parts of Kerbal Space Program. Oh, hell yeah, you used how to learn separator rockets. Indeed I did. They're quite important, as I have learned. Hello, Pig D6. Archaic flight space simulators today. Well, I'm actually helping the Kerbals in order to achieve their dreams of spaceflight, but right now I am assisting in the rescue of one of their pilots, who made a moonshot, but unfortunately has become stranded due to lack of Delta V. Didn't explode yet. We may explode shortly. It's understandable. The launch requires a lot of focus. Thank you, Halbernacht. Yes, there's quite a bit going on. So let's take a look at our craft. So, in essence, when we plot a maneuver in Kerbal Space Program, we essentially adjust what kind of Delta V we add to the at a particular point. And in essence, what that means is Delta V is a change of velocity. This is represented in meters per second, and it's basically how much you can change your speed. And with any given rocket, there is a formula for determining what kind of Delta V you will be able to achieve. And I will go over that in a future episode, I believe, because I think it is high time we had a demonstration of those principles. So I am actually throttling up at 20 seconds before the node time, because my burn time was 40 seconds. So I wish to average out the burn over the course of my node intersection, rather than simply have it all begin at the node. Oh yes, that quote is from Arthur C. Clarke. Thank you, Last Bucket Knight. Rapid unscheduled disassembly. Indeed, that is one way of putting it. So as you can see, we are burning through our lower stage, but we will still have plenty of Delta V left over. And the more velocity we add, and the higher we are up in the orbital bodies, the less Delta V will require. So let's run our engine at a very low power rating so that we can achieve our orbit fairly precisely. Although it's such a poor orbit that precision is not even important. So what we will absolutely need to do is make sure that we now begin the alignment process with our target orbit. So let's set that as our target. So now the orbit, the conical section of the Pants Browner Mark V, the moonshot vehicle, now that it is set as our target, the various calculators in place in Kerbal Space Program will allow us to make judgments about when we will potentially intersect with that orbit. Delta V equals miles per gallon. In a sense, I would say that Delta V is more specific impulse is more akin to miles per gallon, because Delta V is sort of related to how much fuel tank you have. So maybe Delta V is more equivalent to the range of a car on a given tank of gas, as opposed to specific impulse, which in essence is, how shall I put it? It is how fuel efficient the particular motor is. How much speed can you change for any given amount of mass that you throw out the other end? At the end of the day, whatever propulsion unit design you're looking at, be it a conventional bi-fuel liquid engine rocket, or an annihilation torch drive, or an antimatter annihilation torch drive, you still care about how fast and how much of something you are throwing at the back. And generally speaking, the most efficient thing is to be as close to the speed of light as possible with as little mass as possible. That will give you your greatest specific impulse. Delta V increases the less mass you got and how much velocity you're getting from your engine. Yes. The less, I should perhaps specify, the less mass you have that isn't something you can throw out the other end of the engine. Delta V has a finite amount, given that you burn your fuel into gas. Yes, yes, Delta V is always finite, although it can be stretched by using higher specific impulse motors, or engines. Delta V is a measurement of the change in velocity that you can have from your craft in the form of reaction mass. Yes, yes, that is another way of putting it, Alaric, thank you. And there are graphs, which we should go over in the future. Alright, so... Okay... Now, I forget where it is most efficient to do my apoapsis boosting burn. I believe it is at the point where my periapsis is, although this orbit is circular, so it almost does not matter where I do my periapsis burn. So, what I will do is I will now attempt to match... Oh yes, yes, I must actually adjust my inclination. Let's take a look here. So we will actually have to look at some of these orbital parameters here. So my inclination for the orbit is 0.08 degrees. Let's take a look here. And the target's inclination... Oh goodness, come here. Please give me the information. Oh, no, I do not have that available, unfortunately. Okay, so I only have the data for my own craft. This is unfortunate. I will have to... Well, we'll simply do this. We'll do this by eye. Okay, let's see here. For braking maneuvers, Delta V becomes less important with atmosphere, specifically as atmospheric drag will do most of the work for you if you don't explode. Yes, indeed. If any of you have ever seen the sequel to 2001: A Space Odyssey, and for whatever reason I am blanking on what that particular year was. But in that movie, the spacecraft actually uses a retro burn in order or it uses aerobraking in the atmosphere of, I believe, Jupiter in order to lose some of its velocity. And in that way, less reaction mass needs to be carried aboard the craft. However, you must be careful that you do this correctly. Atmospheric braking maneuvers, especially if the atmosphere has variable density or changes, such as the atmosphere on a planet with a significant gas expansion and temperature changes, that will significantly affect how, I guess, how things will go. Let's see. Delta is changed to anything. Indeed, indeed. And yes, of course, on the density of the gas and of the design of your particular air braking system. What did I think of Interstellar? I've actually not watched Interstellar, as surprising as that may be. There are certain types of media which I have a little bit more difficulty accessing, as opposed to games, and sometimes movies are included in that. So we have adjusted our... We're going to adjust our inclination. There we go. We are essentially level. Inclination is dropping. Oh, no, inclination is increasing. We were actually almost perfect before. So now we have borderline 0 inclination. That is acceptable. So let's make sure we do that at this point. So one of the ways to think about orbital inclination is that if you want to adjust it, you need to figure out which... So imagine if you had a band and you wanted to rotate it. There will be an axis around which you rotate the band. And in this case, we have a ring that we want to rotate so that this tip and this tip change inclination. And to do that, the center point is right here where the maneuver node is. Oh, thank you, 2010, the year we made contact. Thank you very much, Kimmy Spice. And thank you for confirming that, Niwatori. So you are a hardcore gamer. Well, I enjoy many kinds of media, but games are... I enjoy the creativity that many games allow, although movies can be incredibly inspiring. And that's the reason I spoke about 2010, the year we made contact, simply because it does give you interesting ideas. Alright, but yes, we are basically going to be doing a rotation around this point, and we'll be doing that by burning vertically. And that is simply because we need to adjust our velocity vertically. Because at this very point, we are basically going to begin climbing, and then as we loop around, we will begin dropping. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we adjust the way that we are climbing and dropping around this particular inclination. He is a courier. I am indeed. Wait, are you spinning or are your eyes failing me? Your eyes are not... we are not spinning. I simply was rotating, I believe. I think there's also a bit of an effect that happens when you're zoomed out with the way the anti-aliasing interacts with the lighting on the ribs of this particular fuel tank design. So I think that's simply an effect. A courier who most likely likes playing Earth-produced games. I enjoy games from the Far Suns Coalition and from other publishers in the sphere of human colonization, but I have a particular enjoyment of these in specifically speaking. So our burn time will be incredibly minimal at this node, and we are about to reach it within 30 seconds. So we will very gently... Okay, so if it's a burn time of half a second, and we throttle ourselves up to only 1/15th throttle, we will need about 7 seconds of very gentle burn. So that is what we will do. We will throttle ourselves up now, and we will very, very gently adjust our orbital inclination. There we go. I think that is acceptable. So now we can begin plotting our burn at in order to create a new apoapsis for our orbit. My English. That was very much understandable, ultra fluff stuff. Earth products are addicting. Indeed, they are, Kimmy Spice. I think that the media producers and the various game designers of Terra have an excellent knowledge of how to appeal to someone. So as you can see right now, we are dragging our maneuver after we have applied in a prograde direction some delta V. We can drag this maneuver around in order to essentially pretend as if we are doing this maneuver in a different location. And this allows us to essentially play around with the orbit till we get it right. So if we look here, this 6-axis indicator is the primary tool for... no. Very bad, very bad. We have accidentally... Okay, so we need to go anti-normal. No, we need to go normal. We've accidentally left our engine running, and this has resulted in us completely messing up our orbital inclination. We can still fix this. We actually have quite a bit of delta V. Although we will do it on a second loop. So let's add a maneuver, and we will add... Oh, there we go. We need to cancel this maneuver here. Let's cancel this maneuver and cancel this. So we will actually use... Add maneuver. There we go. Goodness, I apologize for that. I must have left that running. Gee, Spacer, is your engine still running? I don't know, Spacer. Maybe you should go take a look. Ho 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 ho. Is that how pranks go on Terra? I think that is one of the classics. Something about something running as if it were anthropomorphized. But I'm not an expert in certain kinds of social relations. Kind of, you got it half right. You better go catch it, says Shimada Tiger. Half wrong and half right. That is often what I do. I did not get my call sign haywire for no reason. Unfortunately, I made many mistakes during my independent Starship Operator licensing program. So take that at whatever value you wish. So let us now accelerate time so that we can avoid waiting for the next maneuver. There we go. Slow it down a little. Speed up. Slow down. Oh no, we skipped it, so we will have to do another loop. But luckily, there is no orbital drift that I believe is modeled. One of the interesting things about non-conic patched models, or something you at least have to compensate for, is that the non-perfect, non-spheroidal nature of a planetoid and its variable gravity means that your orbit is not perfect. It will, in fact, almost rotate around a planet. It will essentially wobble, simply due to the way that the gravity interacts with your craft as you orbit a planet. Not to mention that there are other orbital bodies that have effect on you. This whole sphere of influence model is simply an academic simplification that allows for general estimates, but the actual truth is that it will take some thinking to get a correct estimation. Usually with a fridge. Ah, yes, indeed, with a refrigerator. Why is my node time? Oh no, oh no. What is going on here? Well, let's do a bit of a burn. Let's see what we can do. Something is wrong because we skipped the initial pass. Oh no, oh no. What are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you drifting? Absolutely, absolutely abhorrent. Well, that is fine. That is fine. We will try it here. I've had enough of this maneuvering. All right, let's add a maneuver to increase our orbital distance. There we go. Increase our eccentricity significantly. That is far too much. Let's drop it down. Let's have a rough sketch. Okay, let's go to the vertical camera orientation and adjust. Adjust our position ever so slightly. There we go. Just retrograde burn a little bit. Okay, this is slowly getting to where we want it to be. We will have to make quite a few adjustments, I believe. Okay, excellent. Excellent, excellent. And then we will be able to circularize or give this the correct eccentricity once we get some of these basics adjusted. And of course, we will likely also have to adjust our inclination. So let's do that while we are still able to plot this particular maneuver here. So we are burning, what's the term? Apologies. We are burning normal in order to adjust our orbital inclination here. So that is not perfect, but this is a highly eccentric orbit. So we will have to play around with it a little bit later on. This will take multiple orbits. Hey Spacer, aren't you feeling a little bit tilted? Oh, Niwa. I am feeling somewhat tilted by these issues that we are having. I am supposed to be presenting to my audience a good way of doing this, but instead I am failing quite aggressively. Apologies, had to engage in some hydration simulation. There we go. My life support is now aware that I require some extra moisture within my body. So, as you can see here, this indicator now shows that we have a green bar of delta V and a red bar. This red bar means that we do not have enough delta V to complete the maneuver. However, since we are taking our sweet time and letting poor Doobles Kerman simply drift around the planet without any food, water, or spare oxygen, we will, he'll be okay. He'll be okay. So let's do this maneuver and simply do our best. Here we go. Let's do the time warp so that we get to our burn time much quicker. So we will need 25 seconds. So technically, I think that this calculation is erroneous simply because we will not be able to have this much burn time. So what we will do is we will start our burn around how much time we might have, which is around, I would estimate, 15 seconds of burn left, which means that at around 7 seconds we should begin our burn at full throttle. Let's see here. How long has he been floating in space for? I am not sure. We can check it with mission control once we complete this burn. We may be able to see the mission time. And in all of that duration, Doobles Kerman has been eating whatever has been on board. Very admirable. Okay, here we go. Let's start a full burn now. And we'll see how much reaction mass we can expend. There we go. And that's it. We are out. So let's dump this stage. Okay, here we go. Let's cancel that maneuver. And let's take a look at the map. So we need to dump stage 1 because it is now empty. So let's do so. Hope there's a restroom in there. Attenborough, I don't know how to let you know, but there is no restroom on board any of these capsules. You simply have to rely on the suit's design in order to assist with that. Okay, so we are done with this engine, so our next stage will be here. Let's make sure we cut our throttle so that we do not immediately begin burning upon stage separation. Okay, we are in the dark, unfortunately, but the stage separation is complete. We are now coming away from stage 1. Let's reactivate stability assist system and make sure that we begin plotting our second maneuver. So, somewhere around periapsis, we will add another burn, and we have 1063 delta V available to us. So let's make sure we use that wisely. So, wingmates, if you look here, I have added too much delta V to this particular prograde burn. And this, if you were here for my earlier ramble, this is a hyperbolic section. This is as if you're taking a conical cake and you're slicing it vertically down from your perspective, as if it were sitting on a table and you needed to whack off a big slice straight down with your knife. And that's what this particular orbital path technically looks like in the mathematics. Although this may be a paraboloid. Goodness me, it's been some time since I've done that particular mathematics. I will have to brush up on it. Yes, we are basically playing mathematical cakes with Kerbal's lives at stake here. Oh, I have many food-related wards, it seems. Steak is another thing. Okay, here we go. So let's make sure that this maneuver... Oh, yes, the target reset when we separated our stage. There we go. So, here we go. Let's begin making the correct adjustments. So we need to actually move this maneuver node this direction so that the apoapsis is roughly in line with the apoapsis there. Let's reduce our prograde burn a little bit. Okay, so we have a bit of an intersection. Let's see. Oh. This is what happens when you rely on perspective. You unfortunately end up making some mistakes. Excuse me, please. So, thanks to a friendly wingmate who came by to one of my earlier Kerbal Space Program streams, I was shown this particular system right here, which will help, I think, anyone who plays Kerbal Space Program. And this is essentially a micro-adjustable delta V, I suppose, incrementer. And you can use any of the typical axes that you can use in the maneuver node user interface. So for example, here I will adjust it prograde by simply clicking on it. And this is in the scale of 1 meters per second of delta V applied in that direction. I could also change the scale to be 1000 meters per second or 1/10 of a meter per second. But I think 1 meter per second is currently the gradation that is more than acceptable for my purposes. You simply click to make these increments happen. Alright, so apoapsis is approaching, but let's take a look at what's going on here. So our orbital inclination there is a significant issue with it. We need to adjust that before we do anything else. So let's actually cancel this maneuver, and here is a descending and ascending node. So basically these descending and ascending nodes what's the word here? They are points that you use to represent where the angular intersection of the planes of two orbits is. So for example, let's pretend the blue orbit, which is our current orbit, represents one plane, and the yellow orbit, which is our target orbit, represents another plane. And two planes, when at an angle, intersect at a single line. That is essentially a geometric fact. And this right here is that particular line of intersection, and the descending node and the ascending node is that line where it intersects with our particular orbit. So at the descending node, let's add a maneuver in order to adjust our inclination. And because this is such a tight thing, we will actually... you see, here's the thing. I cannot actually tell how skewed the orbit is at the moment. Simply because... it is far smaller, and I'm using visual aids. Let's see here. So let's take a look at advanced orbital info. Okay. Let's see if I can figure out how to get the inclination correct. So I think we will go back to what I was doing before and adjust our burn at the periapsis. And then we will also do a second maneuver in order to adjust our inclination. So there will unfortunately have to be several steps here, not due to the fact that we can't do it all at once in two short steps, but simply due to some of the issues I am having with the user interface. And I'm sure that professional Kerbal Space Program players will have tips for this, or maybe perhaps a calculator that is usable for that. But unfortunately, I do not have access to those right now, including knowledge that I simply do not possess. So, if we look at it sideways, we clearly need a little more of a radial component. There we go. So that should vaguely intersect when we complete our burns. We will adjust the fine parameters later. So let's see here. Oh, and this right here, these two left and right buttons in the very center of this 6-axis delta V adjustment cross, as I would call it, or star. Let's call it the delta V star. You can also adjust where that particular maneuver takes place. So as you can see, we can sort of play with it back and forth to get an optimal set of intersects. Okay, so let us do this maneuver. So let's set our stability assist system to go to the maneuver orientation. And this is a fantastic way of being able to simply automate your craft in getting to the orientation it will need at the moment of the burn. It may not be correct for a similar burn in a different position. For example, if we move this burn elsewhere, the position would obviously be different. So you must make sure that you do so. Okay, here we go. We are moving right along with our time warp. Here we go, here we go. So one thing we cannot do is completely make our orbit as eccentric as possible once we get it aligned correctly. Simply because that will mean that we will be in sync with the stranded craft, and we will never reach it. If you have two identical orbits and the craft are in two different positions on that identical orbit, you will simply never match, because you are off. You are in the same phase, but you have a offset. Alright, so our burn is almost upon us. Here we go. Spaceship AI, if you're still there, how do you plot this? Do you think about all of this? Or do you also have subroutines that are, I suppose, subconscious in the sense of preparing an orbital burn? Let's see here. So we will need 354 delta V for this operation, of the total 1063 that we currently have available on this stage. So, we should be good. We should be very good, and we should have enough delta V to return. Hello, Ryuzakov. I am not an astronaut per se. I am a independent starship operator. I am more of a pilot and a contractor, if you want to put it that way. So we will begin our burn at 10 seconds to node time. Ooh, that is fantastic, Starship AI, that you can have, in essence, subparts of you handle that. That is essentially my relationship with my control computers. They are independent, but at the same time, they are my own. They are a part of me. I've gotten used to them as if they were an extension of my organs. And again, it is very difficult to describe. It sounds like the man from Star Control 2. I have not heard the man from Star Control 2, but I have seen gameplay of Star Control 2. Let's see here. So I cannot comment on voice similarities, unfortunately. Alright, so let us begin our burn shortly. We are 20 seconds from burn. We're getting ready for this. We may mess it up, since we will be burning at full throttle. Let's hope this goes well. Here we go. 10, 5, 3, 2, 1. I skipped numbers there. Here we go. Maneuver is going correctly, and we will begin throttling down as we reach approximately 50 delta V. Simply because we do not want to overshoot this. All right, here we go. Orbit is stretching. Orbit is stretching. 50 delta V. Let's crank the throttle down. Let's crank it down even more. Make sure that, because the orbital changes are much quicker once you are thinking about orbits further away, you do have to be very, very careful. There we go. We have gotten it within almost the exact values we needed. Perfect. So now we can adjust this orbital inclination. So we will need to do a maneuver at the descending node or the ascending node. As you can see, we have this significant separation at our apoapses. So let us correct this unfortunate difference. So let's add a maneuver here, and we will use our 6-axis star here, or our delta V, and we will adjust. So we will adjust in the normal vector. Here we go. And this is normal relative to our current orbit, not to any other reference plane. Excellent, excellent. So we are adjusting our inclination. That appears to be getting much closer. There we go. Okay, so now our ascending node and our descending node are essentially in line, or they have changed completely. So if we go one up again, our ascending and descending nodes are fairly close to where they began, but if we go a little bit further, we can essentially make them perpendicular to where we began, and this is exactly what we want. It means that we are essentially on the same plane, both the target orbit and the orbit that we are coming from. Unusual Rodent, welcome to the convoy. And also, Ryuzakov, welcome to the convoy. I forgot to state that. I wish I was a spaceship too. I am just a very large rat. Well, you know, there's nothing wrong with being a very large rat. I think that is a perfectly admirable state of being, as long as you enjoy being such a creature. However, if it is available to you, you may be able to board a vessel and at least somewhat simulate the idea that you are a spaceship. So let's go to small increments and make sure this is as precise as can be. I want the ascending node and the descending node to be as close as possible to the apoapsis and the periapsis. And this is as close as we will get with our current scaling. So let's put the scaling back to default. Excellent. Rat love. Saint, you're getting tired. I am glad that you are taking advantage of your understanding that you are and getting some rest. Good night, Saint 02. Rest well. And that goes to anyone with the convoy. If you are getting tired, please make sure to rest. Alright, we will now do our adjustment burn. So let's take a look at our craft. It's been a while since we've taken a look at our craft. And it has a very good rate of maneuver. The reaction wheels are doing an admirable job of keeping it functioning. So one thing I think I will do right now, though, is I will actually... can I disable this RCS thruster independently? So what I will do is I will take all of these RCS thrusters. Okay, so because these were all assigned in a pack of 4, all of them are technically linked. So what I have done is I have disabled this particular line of RCS thrusters because I have a second line of RCS thrusters here. Going into a low power state is important for health. Very much so, Daishima. I think we should all be aware of that, especially as the hour on Terra draws late, especially for those oriented in the former United States. 1 second, please. Goodness me. The lock-on also does cause dehydration due to metabolic distress. But yes, basically, I do not want this middle block of RCS thrusters to waste monopropellant. And this is because the craft will spin around its center of gravity. When you have nothing else affecting you, that is, the center of gravity is... center of mass, I apologize. Center of gravity is a concept that relies on gravity. But I suppose we are still in the field of gravity, because at all times you are under its effect. But the idea is that basically this craft, in its current state, will rotate around where its mass is, where its mass balances out. Imagine if you miniaturize this and try to balance it on your finger. That balance point would be the center of mass, in essence, for practical intents and purposes. However, we must consider that as the rocket burns, the center of mass shifts. So for example, this upper propellant tank is completely full, and this tank here has lost about 1/3 of its reaction mass. So if we had 2 identical tanks, plus an engine on the bottom, plus an engine in the middle, and then some of this weight here, we can initially have presumed that the center of gravity, or center of mass, would have been somewhere around here in the craft. And I believe there are tools for that, but I have not used them, unfortunately. And as we lose mass here, the center of mass will actually move up, because most of the mass will be towards the top of the craft. And in this case, it would mean that the center of rotation would be essentially around this point. And basically the intuition is, the bigger your lever arm is, the more you will rotate for any given force you put in. So for example, right here, because the thrusters are so far away from the center of mass. Oh my goodness, Picky is raiding. Space bugs. Oh, they are evolving in order to travel in the void. Greetings, greetings, raiders, and greetings, Picky. You know what today, wingmates? I think because these are bugs, and they pose little threat to our craft's integrity, unless they are large, of course. I will have to examine the data. Let us not activate the autocannons and don our power armor. Oh, and there is a Lapin raid together. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Picky, Lapin, how are you doing tonight? Oh my goodness. No, Picky is quite small. Yes, we have enough room in our cargo stores to accommodate both Picky and Lapin. Oh, very hungry. Well, get yourself some food, Picky. Thank you for coming by, but make sure you eat. I greatly appreciate it. How was your stream? I've been busy again, and I am very unaware of what's happening around me. I am simply lost in the void. Hello, raiders. Hello. It is great to see you. It was pretty productive. I drew a bunch and made your calendar. Oh, excellent. Yes, I spent a bunch of time drawing myself yesterday. It was quite pleasant. Were you drawing anything specific? I know that you often draw fellow VTubers, and I definitely enjoy those streams, but I enjoy any of your art streams. For anyone who does not know Picky, she is an absolutely fantastic artist and another virtual streamer who I know in this community. And Lapin, what were you doing earlier today? You drew a cat in a hoodie, and then I got requested to draw myself lifting weights. Ooh, fantastic! Two very different things. And getting yoked, getting swole. That is also an admirable thing to draw yourself doing. I look forward to seeing those posted on social media. That'll be quite the treat, if you will post them, of course. And Lapin, if you're still here, I hope that you were having a good time. What was Lapin's stream doing? I would certainly be interested in knowing. Lapin was streaming Magical Star Sign, a comfy RPG. Ooh, fantastic! Role-playing games are an excellent way to wind down an evening, especially if they are comfy, as you stated. Lapin is another streamer. She previously streamed on YouTube, and now she streams on Twitch after her Twitch Fest. If anyone could kindly provide the Twitter or Twitch links for both of those fantastic virtual streamers. Oh, is there a Sharara? I see the Sharara icons, and Mercune has a statement about that. But I would certainly appreciate if some kind wingmates could plug our fellow streamers and paste their links. There we go. Thank you very much. That is much appreciated. And if you could do Lapin, that would also be great. All right. So let us. Oh yes, we have a day till the next burn. We were simply admiring the spacecraft. Goodness. There we go, excellent, fantastic. Thank you, wingmates. You have done a tremendous service. All right, let's advance our time. So as you can see, now that our orbit is significantly wider, the orbital time is much, much longer. It's a full day to travel this distance. And as you can see here, we actually slow down as we approach our apoapsis. And that is simply a, just the way the physics works when it comes to orbiting. Is your velocity is greatest at periapsis, and it is lowest at apoapsis. And I will get into a lecture on that at some point when it is possible. You were beat to posting the Twitter link. It's okay, both of you have contributed greatly, so thank you very much. Kerbal looks fun. Space travel is a fascinating topic. Indeed it is. And I think when it is, I suppose, harder science fiction, or perhaps in this, essentially a simulation of early 20th and 21st century Terran spaceflight, I think it is very, very fascinating to have such restrictions where you must think about maneuvers and you simply can't do. Excuse me, the lock-on is still hitting me. You simply cannot do brachistochrone trajectories, direct burns to whatever target you have. Uh, perhaps my name may be indicative of what I enjoy, but let's not rest on our laurels. I will say this: the Kerbal Space Program streamer community and the Kerbal Space Program community in general has a number of incredibly talented individuals, especially those who know the mathematics by heart. And I am absolutely not at their level. And I would plug their works too, but right now I do not have any links handy. I should have prepared that ahead of time. Apologies, wingmates. I will hope to have some further resources for you. So let's go up to quarter throttle and burn 4 seconds in order to adjust our inclination. Let's see here. And we have adjusted our inclination about as well as it will go. Let's do just a kiss, just a little kiss. There we go, just kisses. Little smooches to adjust our orbit. 3 hairs and some air, as Bob Ross says. There we go. Oh, hello. Yes, Shimada. I feel like we could discuss a lot about spaceflight. Yes, our intrepid astronaut, Tigress. Yes, Shimada actually likely has significantly more spaceflight experience than I. So, in terms of using more, what I would call, simpler craft. Ones that have less automation and less use of electronic intelligence. My base, I've never seen any gameplay outside of what I assume is the initial building launching stage. I thought that was the whole game. Well, the whole game is as big as you make it. So this is the Kerbal system. And out here is Eeloo. This is one of the furthest objects you could travel to. It literally takes years to fly with the using the transfer orbits of that the Kerbal spacecraft can actually attain. We absolutely cannot do a brachistochrone burn to Eeloo. We have to do a transfer orbit, which is incredibly slow. Although we can, of course, do a multi-planetary maneuver, which is challenging, but we can do grav turns. It's just very difficult to plot those out. And I have very little experience with plotting grav turns in the Kerbal Space Program. And I say little, and by that I mean none. So now let's take a look at how close our approach is here at the apoapsis. We are a little bit off, so let's actually do a burn at periapsis and increase our particular, the distance between, or decrease the distance between our apoapses. So let's use our 6 degree of freedom delta V adjustment tool here in the lower left hand corner. And we will turn the scale down to 0.01 meters per second, because we are working with very delicate things right now. You can use RCS for nudges too. Indeed, Starship AI. We can certainly use RCS for gentle adjustments, but I was already aligned correctly, so it wasn't too much of a risk. RCS can be used for both rotation and translation, and in this case we would have used translation. Much more mundane craft for sure. Yeah. Well, it's no shame. I think that anyone who is engaging a spaceflight absolutely deserves all the praise they get. So my hat goes off to you, Shimada. What is the furthest from Earth orbit you've gone, Shimada, if I may ask you? Or perhaps also, what is the longest you've stayed in orbit? I have previously spent at least a year traveling without setting foot on even a station, but it certainly isn't an experience I would like to replicate again. Yes, the scale can get very intense, especially if you're doing the long shots. However, most of it is void, and as long as you do your math right, you don't care about the rest of it. Oh, and if somebody could also plug Shimada's streaming links, that would be much appreciated. Shimada absolutely deserves our love. Let's see here. Here we go. There we go. Adjusting our orbit. Here we go, here we go. Yukis, do be careful. the fate of a Gosling, as per the movie, is unfortunately not the happiest. So mind how close you bring yourself to such a situation. Okay, so we are bringing together our apoapses. There we go, slowly pushing it. We do have some inclination issues, unfortunately, it appears. It's not quite perfect, but that's what happens with these sort of orbital matchups. Interlinked. Thank you guys, thank you very much. Thank you very much for putting up Shimada's info up there. Interlinked. Cells interlinked. Well, Picky, we are drifting right now indeed. So, that is what we are doing. Here we go, here we go. Alright, so let us continue adjusting here. So we're gonna have to play around with this, it seems. Be a happy Gosling from something other than Drive or Blade Runner. Yes, unjammy slammy, that is the right attitude to have. Be Gosling in his happy moments. Okay, so let's continue adjusting this. It's a bit of a delicate operation. Okay, so here, this right here is an intersect. And basically, when your orbits get close enough, Kerbal Space Program will give you a very handy indicator that you are getting close. However, we should not rely on it simply because... let's see here. So what will our new apoapsis be? So our new apoapsis will be very close to the apoapsis of the Panzerbrauner Mark V. So let's do some radial burns. So we have done prograde and retrograde burns, so let's take a look at our craft. So, let me align it correctly to the planet. Let me align prograde so I can describe what we're doing here. So, ladies and gentlemen, this right here is going to be a prograde burn. Basically, we are currently aligned in the direction of our orbit, and we will be burning along that path of the orbit. And if you burn the other way, it's considered a retrograde burn. Now, if we angle our craft this way, relative to our orbit, this is all relative to the orbit, we are burning normal. And the other direction, where the rocket is right now, is anti-normal. And I'm sorry, it is not a rocket, it is the engine. And this is the kind of burn you use in order to change your orbital inclination, or how tilted your orbit is. And if this is a maneuver that we will attempt to do right now. If we do a radial burn, we are actually angling perpendicular to the orbit. So if we look at it this way, the orbit is where I am waggling the mouse pointer right now. You can imagine that the orbit is running through there. And unfortunately, the map does not indicate it correctly. Yeah, unfortunately not. But we are currently perpendicular to the orbit. And that is used to essentially, for lack of a better term, swing the orbit around. And sometimes you can actually get very good results out of using radial burns. So let's go back to our adjustment for this upcoming maneuver. Let's click on the maneuver node, and now we can begin inputting further data to it. So let's see what we can do with some of these radial burns. So if we burn radial out, what happens? Are we bringing our apoapses closer together? I think we are. The difference is very small, but I am looking at my monitor. That is about as close as it'll get. I'm not going to play with it anymore. So let's go to our next maneuver. Here we go. So we are rotating our craft to the position it will need to be for a burn during this maneuver. Now, as you can see, we will only have to adjust our velocity by 1.5 meters per second. Which is our delta V, which is part of our delta V, and our delta V is our absolute ability to change our velocity, as determined by Tsiolkovsky's rocket equation, which is the fundamental and most important law of all rocketry, be it in the 3rd millennium or be it in the 5th millennium. 1 second, please. Goodness. Alright, so let's speed up time because we need to wait until we get to that particular maneuver or orbital node. So let's speed it up a little bit more. One thing that I wish Kerbal Space Program had was, or I believe this is available as a mod, however I have no mods right now, is that instead of a geometric increase in time warp, there was also a button for linear time increase. As you can see, I went from 50x speed to 10x speed. That is a 5-fold geometric increase, and I just dropped a 2-fold geometric increase. And now I am back to a... Right, our node time is coming up. Let's begin burning gently. Oh, gentle burn. There we go. Excellent. So we have completed our adjustment as close as we can. As you can see, that was a very, very gentle kiss. Tricky Bee and Kimmy Spice, I'm glad that you're enjoying hearing some of these things. But yes, if you take a look at this line right here, the descending node line, that is a much better demonstration of radial out. That is the radial out direction. Because one of the two centers of this particular ellipse, because an ellipse is always indicated with two centers, is here at Kerbal, and the other invisible center is somewhere here in the middle of the orbit. I ain't learning anything. I'm too stupid, but I enjoy the confusing words. Well, Tricky Bee, I will, what is the wording here? I will contest your assumption that you are stupid. I think that sometimes a lot of explanations simply go over the head because there are not enough visual aids, that it goes too fast, or that the person listening or the person doing the teaching is not currently in the right place or the right mindset. If there is anything specific you would like me to explain with a little more detail, please let me know, and I will absolutely do my best to the limits of my knowledge. Since I also have not spent too much time reading up on my copies of texts on classical orbital mechanics. Yes, yes, indeed, highly unresponsive. There are definitely many concepts that, if you simply have a physical way of playing with them, make sense. And Kerbal is really great because you will make mistakes, but each mistake will teach you what it means to plot these orbits out. Okay, so we will now need to consider how do we catch up to the Pants Browner, and if we are able to make sure that we have an intersect as close as possible. Let's see here. So, terminology as well sometimes. Yes, indeed, Mastermind X01. Sometimes the words sound much more complicated than they are. Literally, prograde is this direction towards the way you're orbiting. Retrograde is the other way. Normal is, as we talked about, perpendicular, and then... normal is perpendicular to the orbital plane, and radial is within the orbital plane. And the orbital plane is simply the big pancake of the orbit, or slice, as we would say. It's hella funny how flight sim knowledge on some things kind of translates very well towards orbital maneuvers, at least stuff you can do on instinct. Yes, some of the awareness of kinetic energy and how it affects the way your craft behaves is definitely something that is important to any kind of sim pilot. So it does translate to a limited extent. Okay, here we go. Not a good thing if you're teaching people, though. Yes, that is definitely one of the difficulties is things that seem intuitive to a teacher are absolutely nonsensical to someone who is just getting into something. And I think that intuition needs to be moderated very carefully. Okay, so now we will up the scale of our little indicator here. So what we are doing now is we are raising the periapsis of our orbit, and the periapsis is the lowest point of our orbit. And we are trying to do this with the correct timing, so that when we complete that, our orbits with the Pants Browner match up. So see this yellow line? Imagine we in the blue line are traveling along it, but at the same time, because we have a tighter orbit, the explanation is somewhat complicated if you do the math, although it's not supremely complicated. But basically, the tighter your orbit is, the faster your orbit is. That is a general rule of conics, or of conic sections for orbital mechanics. Yes, let's see. Next rule, robot jocks. Ah, yes, Anti-Clay. Robot jocks is quite an interesting a bit of media. I have not seen it much, but it is very fascinating in its own way. I definitely need to watch it. Later on, you should get mech jeb when you're sending probes out to planets. Yes, I think I will have to get mechanical jeb very soon, because this is starting to become a bit of a hassle. Oh, we are way past our initial orbital adjustment. So as you can see right now, the thing that is happening is we are getting very close in terms of matching our orbits with the stranded craft. Oh yes, hard to find indeed. We are very close to matching orbits, but as you can see, the distance between our craft at the first intersection and the second intersection is way too far. At the second intersection, we will be separated by 890 kilometers. That is not a distance you can adjust for. So what we will have to do is we will have to wait another orbit in order to, before we do this maneuver, in order to hopefully get a better alignment. So first, what we will actually do is we will complete the orbital match as best we can. Oh goodness, the zoom has decided to stop behaving correctly. There we go. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that our periapses are as closely aligned as possible. So let's do that using our incrementing tool here. Let's pick the maneuver node again. If I could find the maneuver node. There it is. There's the maneuver node. We have now picked it so we can begin our adjustments. Let's zoom in very closely and do adjustments here. So what I will say, this is surprisingly harder than what I would expect, because you would normally have a computer just do this for you. There is no reason a human being should be manually adjusting this. But these aren't human beings. These are Kerbals. So this is the only thing they understand. The fabled Egerbit. A-I-O-U. What is an Egerbit? Is that the... Oh, you got me there, A-I-O-U. You got me. If Egg was around, he would be quite enthused by that. Thank you. Had the same zoom problem with the Simple Rockets app. Oh yes, I have used Simple Rockets before. Simple Rockets is essentially, for anyone who does not know, a two-dimensional Kerbal, almost, you could say. Although it does have some significant differences. So let's continue adjusting using the small increments here. It's going to take a little while, but we want precision. Let's up the increments a little bit. Alright, there we go. We are getting a good alignment of our periapses. This is looking good. Let's do a bit of these adjustments. Alright, this is about as good as it'll get for us, I think. And that also means that we are, unfortunately, misaligning some of our other orbital components, but that is acceptable. Almost like a rickroll, indeed. That egg orbit thing definitely got me. Alright, let's see here. So let's align towards the maneuver. And we will... yes. So now that we've clicked the node, let us adjust the time at which this node occurs. Okay, come on. This works at the worst times when I don't need it. There we go, okay. So, as you can see right here, I'm hovering over a 3-button radial menu. One of the menu options is an X to cancel the maneuver, which I don't want to do. And then there's also a button that looks like an orbit with a plus in it. And this means do this maneuver after another orbit. So let's do that. And let's do as much as we can to get the closest possible alignment. So as you can see, we have actually managed to get one of our intersects very close. What's this? Hey Spacer, is there something in space? I did see Niwa's comment in intercepting Picky's comment. Oh, Niwa, you should have allowed me to fall for it. It would have been quite the moment. And I can't say it now because it would be inorganic. I am so sorry. I will make a Vokaroo with that so that one may enjoy it in private. Okay, let's see here. So our intersect is not exactly close, so we may need to add another orbit. No, we are losing intersect. This is not good. 100 kilometer separation is simply far too long. Yes, Shadow Trooper, the defensive systems clearly are working. Niwatori apparently is somewhat of a security expert here. Imagine if you fell for... Yes, Tamaro, what if I could fall for them? What if I could fall for that? Believe me, I may be in space. I may be somewhat unfamiliar with many vagaries of Terran culture, especially of millennia past. But I know some of these tricks. I know some of them. You wish you were in space off this planet to find a cute blue alien, says Auntie Clay. Well, I have never met what I would describe as an alien of xenoterrestrial origins before. So I think that you would be out of luck, at least in the sort of situation that I am in. Okay, we are gonna have to go back here and simply readjust our orbits. Okay, let's try this. So this may not work out the way we want it to. We need more granularity. So for all of the efforts we have put into this, we will actually have to abandon them and make a maneuver that increases our approach to the stranded spacecraft, but does not quite get us. And this will give us a far finer granularity in the way we align our orbits. So let's do that maneuver, and we can also take a look and see what the closest approach will be after several orbits. But at the very least, we will have far more precise alignment possible. Although if we enter an interesting harmonic, we may actually never get a proper alignment. Oh, this intersect here is excellent. Okay, so this is actually decent. So let's make this burn happen. This burn will be very acceptable. So let us warp to that particular time. Let's see here. What if you imagine dragons? Oh my goodness. What if you simply imagine? I believe some other words are frequently attached to that, such as conceptualize and visualize. Focus on the mission, pilot. I am doing so. I am doing so. Picky with the vindictiveness, but I very much understand that. Ooh, a fight in the data stream. Please, please, do engage in your honorable bout. All right, let's speed up our time. Our burn is in 5 hours. We could have had adorable laughing spacer when he realized. And Niwa, now you attempt to do something of that order yourself. You think you could got him. You think you could got me. But unfortunately, I have a keen eye. Stay on target. Are you using any inertial dampening? No, this is very much as crude as it gets. Also, at the very least, I am not aware of a technology such as inertial dampening, at least in the technological base of the Far Suns Coalition. There may be some kind of secret project for that, but I am very unaware of it. And if I was aware of it, I would never tell you. That would be a great way to... what's the word? Face a firing squad. Or some other form of execution. Okay, so we are approaching the burn point. Here we go. Almost there, and this is going to be an incredibly short burn. Incredibly short. So we will do it at 1/15th power, and we will extend the burn. So, let's make sure we get the alignment correct. Spacer knows them all because he is 67 years old. Well, I am chronologically 67 years old, and that includes time that I have spent in suspension. And about half of that time I have spent in either cryogenic or metabolic suspension, and I was not conscious for that time. I am also of the neo-human genetic template. So technically, once I reach what it would be described as adulthood for a Terran, for a Homo sapiens, I would in essence cease to age, although there would potentially be errors, as there always are. And that is sort of my situation. It's not necessarily the jelly. In fact, the jelly is quite unpleasant on many materials. There are certain fabrics that do not work for uniforms. simply because they do eat away. The typical mixtures of acceleration fluids do dissolve certain materials. Wait, you guys don't go bald, don't bald. Sometimes the genetic factors of non-modified neo-humans does have a propensity for balding, although one can have that edited out of their infant's genome, especially if they are being raised in a gestation vat, as I was. I was not born within my mother. I was in a gestation vat, a simple container within which a artificial placenta is used to supply the embryo. Yes. Let's see here. Reanimation process. To my awareness, there is no reanimation technique that works. You can restart a freshly deceased brain, but the pattern is not going to be what you thought it was. Ooh, since we are at Apoapsis, let me actually do a burn here. I'll start the burn early. We have the delta V plotted, so that's what matters. We are well within error margins for this particular burn. So we're doing the burn, Born by the tube, live by the tube. It's a bit of an issue for spacers. We do end up spending too much of our lives in a tube. Although this is why many of us will eventually leave tubes, simply because it does get a little bit draining, despite being able to stay in a simulation. Kimmy Spice, I did have two loving parents. I was the product of their genetic material. It's simply, at this point, it is more a matter of tradition, because many terraformed worlds, especially the one that I was raised on, we in essence... the reason that gestation tubes came into vogue... Well, I guess vogue is the wrong term. They were actually a necessity. Simply because after the atomic exchanges that occurred on the 23rd century Earth, prior to the initial exodus into the sphere of human colonization, the sheer amount of background radiation meant that many fetuses were unviable, and as a result, gestation tubes were developed as a means of allowing children to come to term in a much more reliable fashion. And because it was somewhat simpler for parents to handle this, and the background radiation lasted for so long that, how do we put it? That in essence, it was impractical to have healthy, natural children for so long that it essentially became a part of the Terran culture. Let's see here. Do you have a problem? But yes, I had two parents, and I was raised in a somewhat typical family. Although, depending on the culture, there are many societies in the sphere of colonization, and you will find that there are as many ways of raising children and human beings as there are suns out there. Almost every culture has its own norms, almost every culture has its own ideas, and almost every culture thinks it is right about it. Do you have a problem with microorganisms inhabiting the HTO in your fuel stores? Well, my fuel is typically deuterium and tritium, so there are no issues with microorganisms, generally speaking, but water tanks, if there are any on a vessel, do need to be sterilized if the supply that the water is coming from is not sterile. Do I have a belly button? Yes, I do. Simply because the artificial placenta that I was attached to was artificial in the sense that it was produced specifically for the purposes of my gestation, but it was of biological origin. It was in fact primarily my mother's cells that were cultured and cloned and stimulated into creating this fabric. They don't do insemination the old-fashioned way. It's all nurturing artificial wombs and such. Well, you can do insemination the old-fashioned way, but many choose to do it outside of out of the parents' bodies. It simply depends on the cultural norms and the preferences in question. Simply because extraction of an already fertilized blastocyst is somewhat more tricky. So you could do it outside. Water source can be used to insulate habitation area from radiation. Yes, they are certainly used for that. Although on my craft, every bit of weight counts, so I tend to use some rather advanced, low-density materials that are specifically designed for that. Although there is no substitute for water. No, biofuel? We use typically fusion drives of different varieties, or we use antimatter reaction rockets. So it is perhaps biological fuel if you consider hydrogen isotopes to be a biological component, but that's so yes, you could say it's biofuels to some extent. Oh, Picky, you're gonna get something to eat. I'm glad that you came by, and I'm glad to have your bugs here. I hope that the time spent here was very nice. Ooh, whoa, spacer belly button. Yes, I do have one. But I'm not taking off my uniform anytime soon. Rest well, Picky. Rest well. Thank you for coming by. Okay. Let's see here. So, I need to make sure that we can get a good intercept here. So I'm going to plot another burn at the apoapsis, and we will hopefully be able to match orbits after a couple of more rotations. We will slowly be catching up to the Pantsbrowner. So, let us do the orbital advance maneuver. There we go. So we are incrementing orbits, and we are watching where our nearest intersects will be. So let me scroll back here. So, wingmates, take a look at these two orange markers right here. This is the first possible intersect that our vessels will have as our orbits more and more closely align. Macoviet asks, Spacer only fans when? Only Spacers. Saucy pictures in the pickle jar. I do not think that I have any interest in such a thing, Macoviet, but thank you for the suggestion. I appreciate that you think of me in a way such that you would purchase my particular product if I were to provide it to OnlyFans. Anticlay asks, is there so no faster than light technology for your civilization? Oh, no, we have plenty of faster than light technology. However, we are simply not able to do some things that you describe. That we have two forms of faster than light technology. One we consider to be the use of wormholes in order to tear through time and space, in order to get travel between locations rapidly. And the other one is a translation drive, which is warping space-time around us in order to essentially push the ship inside of this space-time bubble across a system. However, translation drives are incredibly energy hungry and have some other issues with them, which I will describe later on. And so they are very expensive and difficult to use. Jump drives are the typical drive of the average spacer. So, wingmates, if you look... Oh my goodness. I'm just waiting for that bottled spacer jelly. Okay, bye! Well, Picky, if you have access to Metastar products, or the Metastar catalog, that is where I bought my acceleration fluid. Although, maybe you are implying that you wish to have the used acceleration fluid. So, we will need to clarify that later. They want to buy some spacer pickle water. So FTL research is mainly used for warp travel tech. Well, for what we would describe as jump/wormhole technology, and for warping space-time. The same principle that is used to create the wormholes is the same principle used to bend space-time around a vessel. It's just that creating a stable bubble rather than this particular rupture, for whatever reason, has proved to be more difficult. How do we produce our antimatter fuels? I'm not an expert in antimatter technology, but I can research that for you. I will be doing, in the future, explanations of some of these technologies, because it seems to be that there are quite a few questions. And I would like to make sure that you have accurate details. So I will do my best to provide you with that information as time allows. Okay, so let's take a look at these orange intersect markers. This basically is a snapshot in a future time, which represents the positions of us and our target ship. Here's our target ahead of us in the orbit, and here is us behind in the orbit. So now we will continue doing the increment orbit button. So as you, I can actually use this button right here in the UI, down here in the lower left-hand corner. So if you were looking closely, as you can see, the target is now closer to us in this particular snapshot after another orbit. So what this tells us is, as our orbits continue spiraling around, we get closer and closer because our orbit is slightly faster. The orbit is inside of our target orbit, and by that very principle, we are slightly faster. That is a rule of thumb to use when plotting your orbital maneuvers. So we do another orbit, we do another orbit, we do another orbit, and one more, and let's see what happens if we do another. That is no good, we have overshot. So let's take a look at our separation. We are about 12 kilometers away at this separation. Those are not bad numbers, especially considering what kind of margins of error that we are dealing with, but we can make it better. So let's adjust this. Oh, thank you for that sentiment, Anti-Clay. Unfortunately, I do not have subs active at the moment. It is not that I have not reached the threshold, and I absolutely appreciate all of the viewers who have allowed me to reach such a momentous destination. It is simply a personal lack of readiness for it. And yes, I may change my my acceleration fluid to the ORAC purple stuff. They have a very prime variety of acceleration fluid, which is significantly more expensive, but it is much more durable and lasts longer, and it is less destructive to the fabrics and to your flesh in the tank. Let's take a look here. Gotta have that goo. Indeed, I must, or else I will not be able to do my job. It is the only thing keeping acceleration forces from crushing my body. My organs are actually held by a membrane that I had added to me as an augmentation. It's really a part of the job, unfortunately. Okay, so let's get this intersect a little bit better. So, if we look at it, this intersect is 12 days away. This means this maneuver that I have done is a completely rookie move. This is not how you should be plotting these particular intersects. 12 days will kill whoever you are trying to save. You must not have a lot of spare time too. My spare time depends entirely on what contracts for courier work I have at the present moment, and on what kind of route I am engaged in. If it is a very intense route, especially one out of transmission range, I will likely be focused on the job significantly more. But for the most part, if I have a trajectory plotted, I have very little to do. I simply end up doing paperwork, some other personal projects, and this. Do I enjoy my job as a courier? I do. It gives me a freedom to choose my own work, but at the same time, it does pay well. And unfortunately, the side effect is that I must always seek out contracts and charters. Although I have done some multi-run charters, and I have done contract work for corporations that involve, say, perhaps several months' worth of deliveries. But at the same time, that does lock you in somewhat more. But there are many perks to being an independent starship operator, but there are also many drawbacks. Gotta make more money for the man. Safe travels. Thank you, Anti-Clay. I do appreciate that. Okay, let's begin using our micro-incrementing in order to attempt to get this intersect as close as we can. Alright, so let's try some radial burns. Let's try a prograde burn. What happens if we do a bit of a prograde burn? The separation is... we need to actually look at this this particular approach information here. So in the lower left-hand corner, the font may be a little bit small. Black holes. Black holes are... There are systems where the sun is a black hole, but Anti-Clay, I will say this, there is nothing very threatening about a black hole other than the radiation plumes if you get too close. A black hole is simply a gravitational body like any other. And if you were to approach a sun as close as you would to, I suppose, an inescapable radius of the black hole, the Schwarzschild radius, you would have long since been incinerated by the radiative energy of any given sun, with the same mass as a black hole. So while black holes are intimidating from a sort of psychological perspective in that you are in a star system with no beautiful light and nothing to anchor your psyche, they are not that much of a navigational hazard. Debris is the #1 navigational hazard, by far. So right now I'm going to play around with these burn numbers in order to try to get my intersect as close as possible. So burning prograde is actually bringing intersect 1 closer together, and I can see that on my display here in the left at intersect 1. I mean, every galaxy has a super heavy black hole in the center. Yes. Surprisingly, we have not actually been able to send a proper expedition to the center, to A star, our black hole, or supermassive black hole A star, if I recall correctly. We have simply not been able to jump because of the difficulty of maintaining a stable wormhole that can transit that much mass in such regions of gravitational instability. Unfortunately, the interaction becomes far too difficult. You would love to see a quasar with your own eyes. I would not recommend seeing with your own eyes. I would recommend doing it through a porthole, or at least through cameras. But it is certainly possible to do so. Although many systems with quasars are not very inhabitable, and simply are where automated mining may happen. So currently I'm very, very gently adjusting my prograde velocity. Let me adjust it with a little less fine-tuning. Okay, we are getting our intersect closer and closer. That is good. We are now down to 9.5 kilometers of distance, which is excellent. We are continuing to adjust. We are now down to 8 kilometers. So we're going to push this as far as we can, and then we will do both radial and normal adjustments. But prograde is by far the most important intersect that we must do. So let's see here. We are getting our intersect down to 5.5 kilometers, which is very good. Very good. Yes, you would need some kind of eye protection. A very good emote to use, Anti-Clay. Excellent. Oh. So now, if you were paying attention, the intersect suddenly went the other way. We stopped reducing the intersect distance, and we started actually making it worse. So let's bounce around a little bit till we find a point right between those two paths, the minima that we are looking for. Okay, so the minima is around 5.3. Now let's go to fine scale and use radial and normal adjustments to see what we can do. So if we burn normal, we actually worsen the situation. If we burn anti-normal, we improve the situation. But not by much. Let's try radial. Radial is making it worse, and radial in is actually making it better. We are down to 4.5 kilometers of separation at intersect point, which is very good. We are down to 4, we are down to 3, we are down to 2 kilometers, we are down to 1. All right, let's see if we can push this, wingmates. Let's see how much we can push this. However, what I am seeing here is that our intersect velocity is going to increase. Oh, no, it's actually not bad at all. So let's continue pushing our luck here. Our intersect is now down to 200 meters. Let's continue playing with it. Let's do this. Oh, no. So now we are, once again, losing our intersect. So now let's begin playing around with the other parameters again. As you can see, there's a lot of back and forth here. You fiddle with one parameter, you fiddle with another, and then you see what kind of effects occur. And that way you can have the absolute possible closest intersect that you can get. Pushing the luck. F-Science. Indeed, Headless. That is the attitude here. We're pushing our luck with the numbers until things work. Alright, let's try pushing prograde. Nope, that only makes it worse. Let's try retrograde. Retrograde makes it better. We'll keep pushing our retrograde. Oh, nope, that makes it worse now again. So that is about as good as it'll get. Let's try normal and anti-normal. That makes it so much better. 50 meters. Oh my goodness. And that makes it worse. Let's try going up. That makes it worse. All right, 50 meters is the closest we will get. It works for Edison. Indeed it does. One must not forget that so much of what they call quote-unquote science is something akin to faith, in my opinion. You must have a hypothesis backed by data, But at the end of the day, a lot of those things are still educated guesses that may be wrong, so you must absolutely have it within yourself to understand that your hypothesis is only a possibility, but you must also have enough trust in yourself that that your dumb intuition will actually be correct. Space travel is just geometry and magic. Indeed, Captain Charlie Foxtrot. I would say that essentially is it. It's a lot of math, and it's a lot of hoping that nothing fails during the flight. One of the most terrifying things I will say that is different from the way a lot of science fiction, especially televised science fiction, portrays spaceflight, is that, in particular, when your engines, quote-unquote, go out, you fall from orbit. Unfortunately, that is not the case. This is exactly why we are here. We are rescuing someone who does not have engines that can run because they are out of reaction mass. They are trapped in orbit. And thank you for the reminder, Niwa. 1 second, wingmates. I must go to a sim water dispenser in order to get some more of this fantastic fluid. So I will mute myself briefly. Please be entertained by the dulcet tones of the background music of Kerbal's space program. Oh, in fact, I had disabled that. There we go. There's the dulcet tones of Kerbal Space Program. I apologize, I did not have this space music. 1 second, please. I will turn the microphone in my simulation off briefly. There we are. I have hydrated myself. Thank you for your patience. Has the music been soothing to you, wingmates? I know there are... Oh, let's see here. Oh, okay, Smod. Welcome to the convoy. It is good to see you here. And Carmine, welcome to the convoy. It's always a pleasure to have you. And yes, that is a gruesome fate. To be left to starve to death or to suffocate in a vessel. Absolutely terrifying. It is unfortunately the way most spacers end up meeting their demise. Simply because that is the most likely thing. Once your drive is no longer active, you're adrift, alone in the void. And hopefully someone picks up your distress beacon. And hopefully your communications equipment is functioning correctly. The disaster says, I know that there are solar systems with multiple suns, but do stable systems with multiple black holes exist? I think it would be very hard to notice such systems since we can't see black holes, but only detect them. Unfortunately, some of my trivia knowledge, I may have learned this during my earlier education, but I am not aware of any, at the very least, colonized or local, accessible systems with multiple orbiting black holes. In theory, such a thing may be possible, simply due to black holes still being gravitational objects, and there would be telltale signs that while we cannot observe the black hole, we can detect what kind of interaction they have with other orbital bodies around them. Everything that has mass has a footprint on the universe, and black holes also have a footprint on the light going around them. So you can use those clues in order to determine what kind of orbital objects there are out there. It's actually way scarier. You stay in orbit, indeed. That is probably the worst way to be trapped. Being alone in space sounds scary. I am alone to some extent, but I do have my assistant electronic intelligence, although he is somewhat limited. Reminder. And I do talk to Reminder sometimes, but Reminder is not a very good conversationalist. He is not the original core, the original electronic intelligence core of the wishful thinking, as this was a military vessel, which had a significantly more sophisticated core in it previously. And I had to, unfortunately, purchase the vessel without it, simply because it was a ex-military purchase. Okay, let us get back to our orbital fun here. So our node time is in 12 days, so we can hit time warp up to 1,000, 10,000, 11 days, 10 days, 9 days. I'm simply going to count because if I don't count, I will miss this. 7 days. We will stop. We will slow down around 3 days. 6 days, 5 days, 4 days, 3 days. Slowing down the sim. All right, let's speed up the sim a little bit. There we go. Sim is speeding around. Let's make it a little faster. I'm very hesitant to keep it at 1,000 or at 10,000, so let's very gently. Okay, we have a day left. Okay, here we have to be very careful not to miss our node time because we will have to do all of that calculating again. 3 hours till node time. We are at 100 warp. Let's go up to 1,000. 2 hours left till node time. All right, let's make sure that we are aligned for maneuver. And let's think about this before we do anything funny with the warp. So, it's a burn time of 0.4 seconds. And so, running our throttle at approximately 10%, we will... or 1/10. We will need about 4 seconds of burn. So we will be very gentle in the way we do this. In fact, we may use our CS thrusters to get the final bit of adjustment. And why is the maneuver not... oh, right, because we are locked. So the physics in Kerbal Space Program under certain kinds of warping does lock up. So for example, we did not complete our full alignment to the maneuver node, simply because we were locked. There is an option to warp to a node. It warps you to node T. Oh, yes, yes. Thank you, that is much appreciated. There we go. Thank you, Disaster. It has been so long since I have used some of these UI elements that I've forgotten that they actually do something. Alright, so we are within 1 minute of our burn. So considering this will be a very gentle 4-second burn, we will... what happened to this intersect? Oh, right. We will bear witness to the intersect as we adjust it. All right, we'll have to keep an eye on this. We'll have to keep an eye on it. Okay. So very gently, we will begin at -2. T minus -2, and we will continue to positive T2. Unless, of course, our delta V says otherwise, because I am not able to very precisely adjust the throttle using the shift and control keys here. But thank you, Disaster. That is much appreciated. Okay, here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Gentle 10% burn. Here we go. Throttling down even further, and engine cut. Let's take a look at our intersect. 64 meters. That is very well done. Okay. So, now we must understand what we need to do in order to match our exact orbits with the target craft. So basically right now, if you actually take a look at our orbits, especially up close, you can see that eventually they will mismatch. So we must apply a bit of thrust at the intersect point in order to match our orbits. So basically, we will need to burn in a way that breaks our velocity, because right now we are going to catch up to the craft in question. In fact, what is our current separation? Is it actually visible from... I doubt it would be visible from us because it is a very small craft. Yeah, of course, it is not visible. It'll only be visible within something around perhaps 10 kilometers at best. And even then, only as a blip on our UI. Since English is not your main language, I might describe things and misspell loads of words. Oh, Disaster, do not worry. For many of us, English, or for me, this particular dialect of ancient Terran English is not my primary language. So I may have some difficulty with certain concepts, although I have had a certain amount of time to learn it. I still make mistakes occasionally. So Disaster, please say things however you will, and everything you can say will be appreciated. Yes, it is ancient Terran English. It's not a language commonly used in the Far Sense Coalition. Languages mutate over time, and boy howdy did English mutate over the years. Although it did remain the lingua franca, and it does remain in many cultures. Although those that are more cybernetic tend to have their own tongues of interchange of information. Tricky B, you must sleep. And the thing you learned here is the term periapsis, apoapsis, the apsis. Periapsis is when a satellite of sorts is closest to the object it is orbiting, its orbiting path. And apoapsis when it is furthest away, furthest away in the path. Yes, Tricky B. I'm glad you learned something. Excellent. As long as something positive is gained here, that means something is going right. So thank you very much for coming by, Tricky B, and I hope you get some good rest. And stay safe. He had more than 20 years of ancient language simulation. Indeed, I have, speaking to those denizens of this particular JumpNet node. First, it was a fair bit more primitive interaction, the days of text communications, such as America Online Messenger, or perhaps MSN Messenger, or Skype even. But yes, especially within the past few years, it appears that this particular node has had several technological leaps in the way that you can interact, and I'm currently engaged in it, which is absolutely fascinating to me. Okay, so, one of the things we need to do is we need to make sure we are aimed anti-target. Let's see here. So, let me check this out. Oh no, we actually want to be aimed at target. So one of the things that when you select a target, be it a body or be it another orbiting vessel, is you will get this pink icon labeled target and anti-target. And basically this means that you will be able to have your stability assist system correctly line you up for a braking maneuver. And so that is what we are doing right now. As you can see, we are aligned with our rocket engine facing butt end towards how do I describe it? Towards the orbit. We are facing retrograde. And in essence, at this intersect point, we will be a little bit too fast because we are catching up with the target. So we need to make sure we do a bit of a braking burn as we closely approach our target. But was it Skype for Business? Gorion, it was not Skype for Business. It was just the standard civilian Skype. Wait, I thought English was a basic common language for those living in the Milky Way. It is a common language. Well, English in its highly modified form, you would find it unrecognizable. But I may give you some samples in the future about this particular form of English. But I have a feeling that I shouldn't be too descriptive of it because I'm gaining some suspicion that there is more than meets the eye to this particular JumpNet node. So I do not wish to reveal much more about some of these aspects. At least I do not wish to provide concrete proof that I am who I am. But there are many common languages simply because there are so many different colonial worlds out there. And you cannot simply put them all under one banner. Some cultures, especially the cybernetic ones, almost entirely live in their neural linkages, and they communicate through that, generally speaking. Whereas some cultures have switched to other tongues, constructed tongues, especially authoritarian societies, some of which do exist. They definitely use languages that tend to reduce the ability for expression that is rebellious, shall we put it. A lot of the societies are those where cauldron-born, or essentially in Terran parlance that would be appropriate for science fiction readers, these are flash clones who have their mind essentially spun up using neural stimulators. In essence, it is a quickly grown human body given a semblance of personality and intelligence and allowed to be a member of a particular society. Those have very different languages. Some of them have no language in a recognizable sense. Wait, I thought English was a bit... Oh, sorry. Skype for pleasure. I think I am seeing the... It is do or die for the Kerbal soon. Yes, indeed it is. Let's see here. We may actually have to catch up. So our delta V will be incredibly small. This is something that I never find intuitive, is which way I'm supposed to be pointing. But the situation is, okay, we are almost approaching our intersect time. Let's see here. I'd like to know how your face mask rebreather is holding on without straps. Sorry if it's something we shouldn't know. Okayest mod. It's more of a ventilator because it is ramming oxygenated fluid into my lungs. And the reason I must have my lungs filled with fluid is because during high gravity acceleration, pretty much every single part of your body becomes what could be described as heavier, and it is being crushed. So, it is definitely good to have it be supported. If you simply have air there, the top of your lungs will tend to collapse onto the bottom, making for a lung sandwich without a filling. And when your lungs have no filling, you can't breathe. Which is why we use oxygenated fluid to replace that atmosphere. Let's see, which way will I have to burn? Okay, we are getting very close, very close. So my ventilator is held on by studs installed into my skull. Simply because I have spent many years of my life in this tank, straps are incredibly bad to have on your face. You end up essentially having your flesh grow accustomed to them and grow into them. It is very uncomfortable, and the respirator already causes issues. I'm sorry, the ventilator. So I have opted to have mounting studs put into my bone, and they protrude through my flesh and allow me to attach a variety of face masks. It is something that many spacers end up doing. And when I do leave the vessel for a ground excursion, I do unscrew the studs that are already installed, and I put in these plugs so that I have a level surface and I don't have little bits sticking out of my face. Oh, you're going to bed soon, Carbide. Thank you for stopping by. That is much appreciated. We are about to do a maneuver to match our velocity with our target vessel here. Oh goodness, we are actually approaching our target vessel. We are getting very close. So our intersect should be at 63 meters. So we need to be very careful with this. We will burn towards our target very gently. But have a good rest, Carveby. Thank you for stopping by. Understandable, languages are changing through time in some relatively isolated societies, I assume. It may just be a regional version. I suppose one could describe it as such. Regional, perhaps. But I would say that there's just simply so many variants as language evolves with distance and time. Okay, let's begin our adjustment burn. And we are at closest intersect. Oh goodness. Oh, no. Turn on RCS and burn backwards. Burn backwards. Oh goodness, we have made a mistake. It's okay, we always make these mistakes. Alright, let's burn towards the target, adjust our relative velocity. No worries, we have plenty of delta V. Alright, we're gonna do this a better way. Okay, now we are on the correct approach. Now let's make sure we adjust our velocities correctly using the reaction control system. Okay, here we go. I'm adjusting. Oh my goodness, I need to slow down. Reverse burn. Okay, here we go. We are swinging around. I've clearly forgotten how to do some of these particular maneuvers. Okay, there we go. Forward. Let's do a quick little burn here. There we go. Adjust. I'm sorry, wingmates, I'm not reading your comments at the moment simply because I have quite a few things happening in real time. Okay, we are drifting this way, so what we want to do... There we go, we want to burn that way, we want to burn this way, and we want to burn... Nope, wrong direction, there we go. go, adjusting our velocity. Braking maneuver, braking maneuver, braking maneuver, braking maneuver. Okay. So, we are still drifting. This is clearly not the right way you're supposed to approach. Please don't use this as a pointer. I have made a mistake. I've made a mistake. Oh goodness, Alaric has arrived. I'm sorry, Raiders. I am currently, in quite a bit of a pickle here. I'm trying to get myself stabilized. Let's see here, 1 second, please. I will attend to the attack. Wingmates, could you please, greet our intruders with the correct amount of, defensive actions? That would be greatly appreciated. Okay, okay, we are almost stabilized. We are almost stabilized. Some of the relative motions that I'm doing here are quite confusing. Okay, I need to get the ball on the ball. There we go. There we go, there we go. Almost there, almost there. Okay, that is about as good as the alignment will get. And we need to thrust forward a little bit so that our velocity is actually net positive. And we are essentially at a standstill. Okay, I can take a look at what's going on now. Oh, goodness me. There are so many invaders. Oh my, oh my. Oh. And yes, okay, Asmod, it is not the most comfortable thing to use the studs but for my ventilator, but it is a part of life. We're here to sack Rome, you're just a stop on the way. Nice battle song, Alaric. I really appreciate that. Time for a second rescue mission. That almost would have been that way. Call sign Pickle. Houston, we have a problem. The pickle's in a pickle. Ha ha ha. Welcome, Raiders. Welcome, Raiders. How are you today? Welcome to the convoy. Alaric, were you doing poetry earlier? Or did you have a little bit of a change of plans? Yes, I greatly enjoy Alaric's poetry. Oh, could somebody kindly plug Alaric's channel? And Alaric, feel free to do that to yourself. It would be great to have a link. Thank you, Daishima. Much appreciated. Oh, you did a short poetry stream. What kind of a poem were you doing this time around? Anything with a particular structure? All right, let's take a look at our monopropellant. We have still plenty of monopropellant left. So let's go into docking mode and begin our approach to the target craft. Okay, this will now be the rescue mission. Yes, Alaric is a fantastic warrior, as I have learned during my Supreme Commander collaborations with him, and he is also an excellent scholar and poet during my various interactions with him outside of battle. And I think many would enjoy his artistry too. Alright, let's enter docking mode. And this will give us a different sort of control over our vessel. And one thing I will quickly do is Alt-L, which is locking our staging. And the important part about that is making sure that we do not, we do not drop stages that we do not wish to lose right now. Okay, so let's see here. We have not locked stages. Let's see here. Alt-L? Okay, I will have to consult the wiki very quickly for the controls. For some reason, it is not working at this very moment. No fixed structure. Freeform, simple rhymes. Topics tonight's were nervousness and representation. Oh, those are very relevant things, Alaric. I'm glad that you had a time to. Yes, those are indeed bold topics, Kimmy Spice. I would like to read those poems once they are complete. Will you be publishing them in any way? Also plays Dwarf Fortress and various roguelikes like Tales of Maj Eyal. Yes, Alaric is an expert in roguelikes and has great taste in some of these more intricate simulators. Dwarf Fortress being one of the most detailed and complicated life simulators you can find. Alright, let's take a look here. Controls. Staging. Or maybe flight interface. Okay, Delta V tools. Maneuver node editor. Apologies, wingmates. 1 second, please. I must find that shortcut. Okay, here we go. Flight activities. General flight. Left Alt and L. That is what I have been doing, unfortunately. Alright, flight directions. Okay, general orientation. Spacebar, activate next stage. Let's see here. Flight activities. Delete is docking mode. Always have to remember these. Sometimes I miss them for whatever reason, simply due to the amount of time between scenarios. The poem's text will be up on your Twitter shortly. Same handle as here on Twitch. Thank you, Alaric. I will be awaiting my opportunity to read that poem. I look forward to it. And yes, Alaric does remind us all that we should be playing Dwarf Fortress. Do your Dwarf Fortress repetitions, wingmates. It is a very important part of a healthy lifestyle. That is a bit of a silly joke. Okay, so let's go to locking our stages. There we go. We have locked our stages. So now let's go to docking mode, and let's make sure our camera is correctly oriented so that I do not lose my mind. So this orientation is not the best. I don't want orbital. I want chase, but I want chase rotated correctly. Basically, this cockpit is the shows what is the ventral and the dorsal side. Okay, there we go. We are now locked to the cockpit. This will make it far easier to dock this craft. So, what kind of game is Dwarf Fortress? Alaric, the walls filtered me. Oh, I'm so sorry, Pig. Walls are not necessarily trivial. Only Ray says, Dwarf Fortress is a simulation RPG. It's kind of its own genre, honestly. Dwarf Fortress, a day takes the, giant goblins away? It might. Okay, so right now we have currently enabled linear translation mode, which means that we will move up, down, left, and right, and forward, backwards. Now, if I was a professional, I would be using simulated controls of 2 joysticks, one for rotational control and one for translational control. However, since I do not have that, I will use the Kerbal docking mode with keyboard controls. But yes, those ways that oh, I will read this. Dwarf Fortress is an intricate simulation. Its primary focus is a kind of city builder where you indirectly manage the goings-on of anywhere from half a dozen to a couple hundred dwarves or other creatures. Thank you, Alaric. That is an excellent description of Dwarf Fortress. And yes, stressfully and poorly is what happens, Gorion. That is exactly what happens. It's like being a manager at Wendy's. Okayest mod, I'm so sorry if you have had to deal with that sort of a situation. I'm so sorry. Oh, goodness. Like a VTuber wrangling your rowdy viewers. Sometimes. Especially if there is a raid. Alright, let's get closer to our target craft. So we will now hit the shift key in order to give us a touch of forward velocity. So let's make sure our forward velocity is not too slow, but not too fast. Oh, sticky keys! Why have I not disabled you? I promised I would. On the grave of my ancestors, I said that I would disable and dishonor the sticky keys and purge it from my existence. But no. I wanted to have an accurate simulation of the 21st century Windows 7 operating system. I had to have the sticky keys. Didn't you, Spacer? Didn't you do that? Wasn't it your decision to have sticky keys? Oh, goodness me. It is harder by a factor of 10, indeed. And yes, of course, make sure you get your rest, Alaric. Look up Boar Murdered. Oh, Boar Murdered, the very famous Dwarf Fortress game playthrough. Okay, here we are approaching the target craft. Here we go. We are getting very close. And I do not have the adequate lighting for this. So we are going to actually begin braking. There we go, braking maneuver. Alright, and we are actually pulling away, so let's make sure we have a neutral velocity. And it's surprisingly difficult to obtain a neutral velocity. Okay, well, we are slowly drifting. Let me turn off RCS. There we go. That is okay to slowly drift, better than slowly drifting into it. You'll be getting rest shortly, just as soon as this Spacial stream is over. Hopefully, once we finish this very delicate part of the operation, we will actually be able to very aggressively deorbit our craft. So, I've actually switched my controls to the long-suffering Doobles Kerman's vessel. So, I will now proceed to rotate this craft into alignment. Let me turn off stability assist system. Oh, let me turn on stability assist. Let's see here. What is going on? Oh, we are still in docking mode. So let's rotate our craft so that we have better alignment, so we don't have to mess around here. There we go. There we go. That is a decent alignment. We're just kind of eyeballing it right now. All right, let's make sure the alignment is tolerable. There we go. Almost. I should really use targeting for this, but I am not doing that because I am a smart fella. Windows 7. Yes, indeed it is one of the fantastic versions of Windows. Without Cortana or any of that. Okay, there we go. We have a basic positioning. Let's switch back to the other craft. Okay, we have drifted away very clearly. Let's go back to docking mode. And let's make sure we use some RCS to push us forward. Here we go. Excellent. We are coming back to our target. So let's make sure our camera is properly aligned. There we go. We are locked to the orientation of our capsule, which is correct. So our orientation is not optimal. So let's use rotational motion in order to get what we need. There we go. Oh my goodness, there we go. Okay, we are slowly aligning. We are aligning. We are aligning. I apologize if I'm not reading as many comments as I normally do. I am quite in a bit of a stress right now, because I am attempting to align us correctly for a docking maneuver. Okay, let's make sure we are laterally and vertically aligned in addition to our translational alignment. Okay, just a bit of upward. Nope, that's the wrong direction. Okay, here we go. Let's kill our left to right motion. Okay, we have killed that velocity. Here we go. A bit down, a bit down. No, this direction, this direction. Okay, stabilize that, stabilize that. I certainly wish there was an XYZ sort of a component. That would be an excellent tool to use. All right, so now let's take a look at our situation. We will need to rotate in order to get the alignment correct. So we are getting awfully close. Awfully close, but we are almost there. Right, braking, braking. Excellent. Now we can go a little bit up. Just a little bit up. Vertical translation. Vertical translation. Okay, I think we are stable now, so I'm going to turn off RCS, and I will use only SAS to rotate us, because SAS is somewhat more stable. So let's zoom out a little bit and get a proper alignment in the vertical axis. So here we go. Almost aligned. That is, I think, close enough for government work, as the expression goes sometimes. And on this axis, we need to get an alignment. There we go. Alignment achieved, more or less. And rotational alignment almost does not matter unless we were actually making a craft for interstellar travel, or for making a ship out of multiple components. Okay, we have actually gone past our target, so we need to switch back to translational mode and activate RCS and back up a little bit. Back up and begin translating. Very gentle operations. Very gentle. Oh, Ray, we are actually rescuing the Kerbal right now. We are getting Doobles Kerman onto this rescue craft, and we are... Once we dock, we will allow him to transfer, and then we will leave this this void. And our return will be very... Oh, shady. So the return trip will be very simple, because the orbit burns are significantly more primitive than any kind of orbital burn. We will only have to do a couple of things in order to... Oh, let me get forward a little bit there. Okay, we need to go down again. There we go, a little bit forward. I'm sure with more practice I will be much more proficient at docking, but docking is almost never the most... it's almost never the simplest activity. Okay, let's translate a little bit over. Let's switch back to rotation and turn off RCS and give ourselves some alignment on this axis. Okay, perfect. I think we are about as straight as we can get. The rest of it, the mating connectors, should be able to fix for us. So let's go back and activate RCS. Translate very gently. Okay, a little more of a forward push. Give us some momentum. Give us some momentum. But yes, the deorbit burn will be very primitive. Oh, goodness, we are too fast. Here we go. Very close. Cancel our vertical component. How's our horizontal? All right, let's give us some translational component. Some forward component. More translation. Forward. Backwards. Some down. Right, come on. Translate. Oh my goodness, this is always so nerve-wracking. And forward. There we go. Turning off RCS. The two crafts are now as one. It is you just have to do lazy docking. What is your lazy docking disaster? I am unfamiliar with that term at the present moment, but there we go. We have finally docked. For me, Windows XP was my favorite OS, but to each his own. XP definitely has a charm of its own, I believe. Yes, it is fantastic when the parts snap. You finally achieved the lock. And thank you, Wingmates, thank you. I'm very glad that we have finally managed to accomplish this. There we go. Oh my goodness. Alright, let's begin the crew transfer. As much as I could transfer fuel. Actually, let's see what would happen if we did that. How much fuel do we have left? I'm sure that we could deorbit. Let's see here. So this tank has quite a bit of liquid oxidizer and fuel. So I think if we can actually probably deorbit both of these craft, if we so wanted to. But this one is unmanned, so it would unfortunately be a waste anyway. So let's do an EVA, just so that we have an example of how an EVA works. All right, let's do an EVA. Perfect. When you have to switch to the other vessel and have to point it to the rescue vessel, then they are aligned and you can just go forward. Oh yes. You can certainly do that. I simply neglected and ignored to use the target mode, simply because I was lazy, and then I could certainly have done that. But I think it was an interesting demonstration of what it's like if you have no control of the target vessel. We did have control of this vessel at the time being, but if it was a damaged craft with no ability to maneuver, that certainly would not have been possible. But yes, you have an excellent point, Disaster. What about Windows? Really good edition. Which one is that, Gorion? Right, so let's do an EVA. Extravehicular activity. Alright, here we go. So we need to do a very brief hop. Let's take a look at our monopropellant. So the nice thing is that the spacesuit has been refilled with monopropellant. So let us make sure that we very carefully do this. So the controls are different for a Kerbal in RCS mode. So let's let go. And let's turn on our RCS pack. And gently maneuver ourselves. Here we go, down. Come on, my friend, line up. And then we will go down. And then we must... Alright, here we go. Going forward. Here we go. Grab on. There we go. Just spamming that F key in order to grab on. There we go. Let's ride the Ava. Yes. Shinji, get in the robot. But I don't want to. Sorry, Shinji. You really must get in the robot. Spacer's not going to do it. Okay, let's see here. Albino black sheep. Oh my goodness. What a blast from the past. Albino black sheep. Oh my. Oh, I see what Windows Really Good Edition is. I'll have to watch the rest of it later. I think I may have seen this in the past. Thank you for reminding me about that. Shinji did nothing wrong. Wingmates, how many of you would agree with that Shinji did nothing wrong? That seems to be a very divisive opinion at times. Let's board the second spacecraft, and let's leave this dump behind. Now let's travel, make sure all of the monopropellant is gone. Yes, there is nothing left. There is nothing left. Karak is burning. Alright, let's see here. Oh! Yes, AEIOU, that is a concern. That is a concern indeed. Shinji got the waifu in the end. He won. Oh, I guess that is one way to put it. Shinji was effed either way. He was just a little baby. Misato Asuka Rei fight imminent. Alert, alert. Waifu wars are beginning. Diplomatic relations have terminated. Shinji did something in error. It was just spur of the moment. Defends Shinji, or Shinji is defended by Ultra Fluff stuff. And Rei claims Misato. Oh my goodness, the flinging is beginning. The flinging is beginning. Yes, chaos. Chaos undivided. AEIOU_UUU. Wow. Oh, that goes in the history books. Oh. I see there's a lot of Misatos. My chaotic choice is that I am truly team Ritsuko. Oh. Truly chaotic. Truly chaotic. Oh my goodness. This is now a cake chat. Did someone say Misato? Oh. I now know what kind of a bait I need for the piranhas to have some kind of fun times. All right, let's disengage this port. Let's see here. Lampatron Jr. Let's get that decoupled. Okay. Doobles is in the craft that is needed. Slap thud noises. Cheese. Cheese, Grommet. The moon is made of cheese, Grommet. Oh, that was a fantastic series, Wallace and Grommet. Claymation is such a fascinating topic. It is very rarely done in the at least the media producers that I know of in the Far Sons Coalition. Most of it that I've seen has been on the JumpNet node here. Oh wait, there's no way to do spoiler text on Twitch. Feel free to whisper, Attenborough. Ikari, the class prez. Stop motion is an absolute wonder. Indeed it is. Wingmates, what is your favorite stop motion animation picture? Well, let's see. We have another YouTube link. Dangerous. Let's take a look here really quickly. Oh, yes. It is the gentleman from Bottom Gear with his cheese. Yes. Fantastic. I do enjoy Bottom Gear. Okay, let us disconnect. Now, why can I not disconnect? I must be having a moment here. This will be a problem if we cannot disconnect. All right. Okay, so control from here. There we go. Let's do the decoupler. Come here. There we go. Undock. All right. This is the now abandoned craft that we have no control over. And this is now our rescue craft. All right, we are backing away from the craft that we have rescued. Or from the former space station. And this will now be a monument left in orbit to celebrate the moon landing that Doobles Kerman accomplished. And if you can see Doobles Kerman's portrait right next to my face, Doobles is incredibly ecstatic to have been rescued. Aren't you, Doobles? Or he might be ecstatic at all times. I'm not sure how much brain matter he has. This is like trying to recommend Kill la Kill to someone, telling them to ignore the fan service. Yes, that is a difficult thing indeed. Probably off the top of your head, Coraline. Yes, Coraline is excellent. There are many fantastic productions out there. Lee Hardcastle has some good claymation. Oh, Lee Hardcastle. Do you have any particular works by Lee Hardcastle that you like? Thud indeed. Added to the Kessler pile. I hate to promote disorder, but Spacer, you have to tell us that Misato is based girl. Ray is interrogating me with that statement. My favorite stop motion is Yuri Norstein's Hedgehog in the Fog. Favorite claymation would have to be Fantastic Mr. Fox. Oh, I love Hedgehog in the Fog. Hedgehog in the Fog is fantastic. I'm sure that Miwa might agree with that, but Hedgehog in the Fog deserves its place in the Pantheon. Alright, let's make sure that we are away from the formerly rescued craft. Let's back away. Let's back away. That's what matters here. There we go. And I have actually not seen Mr. Fox, but I heard it was very, very well done. And Ray, I'll get back to you on Best Girl. It is hard not to watch Kill la Kill with family members. So I did with my big sis. Oh my goodness. That must have been quite the experience. Look guys, we all know Mari is basically the self-insert of Anno's wife. Oh! I see. So there is an interesting point to that. I'm just insanely entertained here, lurking. I'm glad the entertainment is there. That's what we're here for, wingmates. We're here to have a good time and to rescue Kerbals. Soviet films and some literature from the time are fascinating. Indeed they are. I absolutely do find them quite fascinating. I will be doing a old foreign film movie, and by that I mean old Soviet movie watch-along night at some point soon. I will likely be doing Kin Za Za, as Wikipedia said, verbatim, the cult classic tragic comedy sci-fi adventure, or something akin to that. And yes, the literature is also very interesting, considering there's things like Picnic by the Roadside, which is what Stalker is based off of. I could probably read excerpts from Stalker too, or from Solaris. Solaris is also an interesting bit of literature. So let's see what our periapsis is. We want our periapsis to be... Okay, so actually, before we do all of this, let us make sure we save the game. Save game. Because I have made mistakes before. There we go. Oh, I'm glad you're looking forward to the watch-along. I look forward to it myself. Would it be rude of me to link a Twitter that posts clips of Soviet animation? No, Kimmy Spice, please feel free to go ahead and do that. Yes, Roadside Picnic, the original Stalker, is quite interesting. I would recommend it to anyone looking for a bit of literature. However, my favorite would be from the Strugatsky brothers, would be Inhabited Island. At least that's the transliteration of the title. But, Eastern OOC. Oh, Soviet cartoons out of context. This is excellent. Thank you very much for the link. I look forward to seeing clips of those old cartoons in strange places. Thank you, Kimmy Spice. Okay, so we are going to do a deorbiting burn. So this may actually kill us, but we're going to try it anyways. So right now, if we look at our maneuver plan here, if we look at the maneuver plan, our periapsis is going to be... That is way too low of a periapsis. What we are going to try to do is have a periapsis of around 60 kilometers above Kerbin's surface. And that way, we will actually hit Atmo, and we will be able to use atmospheric braking for the re-entry. We do not want to do too steep of a dive. And I think that maybe 40 kilometers ought to be enough. Oh goodness, I need to adjust the scale here. Okay, 80 kilometers, 50 kilometers, let's try 40 kilometer periapsis. That way we don't skip off the Atmo and we actually get enough drag. 40 kilometers. We might burn up in orbit, but we're gonna try it. This is why we saved it. Are you taking the stranded capsule down with you? No, I think we're going to leave the Pants Browner 5 in orbit as a memorial to the failures and risks of orbital exploration. I think that is the best way to do it. Also, the issue is, I'm not sure if I can transfer enough reaction mass from the Panzerbrauner Mark 5A rescue ship in order to have both vessels re-enter. I actually think I could, but I don't want to do it. I do want to leave a memorial up there. Oh, well, Captain Charlie Foxtrot, great to have you around. We are essentially going to be wrapping up very shortly once we re-enter, but thank you for joining the convoy. The vessel's name always makes you laugh. I am glad. A good bit of old Soviet sci-fi is 1977's Polygon, extremely well animated, but only 10 minutes long. Yes, I believe I have seen Polygon, and it is a very interesting animation. Attenborough, feel free to link Polygon to the wingmates in the chat. That would be much appreciated. But no, we are not taking the second capsule. I wonder how well this long tube will do in re-entry. Well, you see, Alaric, we actually have separations. We have this stage will separate off to be the last orbital stage, although we had enough delta V that we didn't need to separate. And then this stage right here will separate right at the capsule. And that way, we will be able to re-enter with just the capsule, which has a heat shield on the base. But yes, we did attempt to account for that. Thank you, Attenborough. Let me just quickly check that link. Yes, that is the Polygon I remember. Thank you very much. Wingmates, well, there's an interesting film if you would like to see it. Alright, let's accelerate to... Let's make sure we adjust our... Oh, turn off that RCS. We do not want to burn mono for no reason, even though we won't likely need it any further. And I will actually enable these RCS thruster packs. Unfortunately, I have to do them linearly, because I'm not in the design stage anymore. And let me see here. One more thruster pack. Because we will be jettisoning the lower stage after we finish this burn. And we will only be using the upper stage, so we will need those RCS thrusters. Oh, it might be a good choice for a watch-along. Yes, perhaps as a pre-main feature, pre-feature film. What do they call them? Teaser? Yes, maybe something like that. Okay, let's make sure we jump to... We will warp to our next destination. And, thank you for that advice. Alright, we are 50 seconds away from the burn, and it's going to be a very short burn. So we will actually extend the burn time by throttling up to 10%, so it's a 30-second burn. So we will start at -15 before the node. Here we go. So this may fail, and in case that happens, we will simply do a reload. Alright, 15 seconds is coming up. We are almost at 25. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Throttling up. There we go. Doing our deorbit burn, orbital drop inbound. Indeed, this is going to be a very aggressive deorbiting burn. Or deorbiting pass. We should actually crank up the throttle a little bit. There we go. We should finish our burn at around positive 20 seconds, but it will be more than okay. So looking in our lower left window where the mouse is right now, we need to make sure that periapsis stops at around 40 kilometers. So we're gonna actually dial down the throttle once we hit close to maybe 80. Okay, dialing down the throttle. Periapsis is still dropping. We're about to hit the X key. And there we go. Right around 40. 39 point something and change. So let us warp to a point in our orbit. There we go. I always forget that the warp here buttons exist, but we will use them to our advantage. Niwa, why won't you sleep tonight? Please get some rest. We are almost done with this. If that is what's delaying you, and if you have an ironbound will on, making sure that you see it, but we are almost done. Oh, and Miko had a whack idea of streaming right now. Oh goodness, yes, you're gonna have to contend with that. Oh, well, that's that may be a long night indeed. Goodness me. All right, so I wish you luck, Niwatori. Okay, let's unlock our stages and make sure that we... let me toggle maneuver mode. Okay, so let's stage separate. I don't want to deal with this second stage now. We are not going to need it, in all likelihood. Because we will be hitting Atmo very shortly, so... What have we separated off here? What's going on? What's going on? Dun 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 dun. At least that's, I think, how, Are you going into land? Yes, yes we are. We are going to be very close to Atmo. We will see if this heat shield can tolerate, if it has enough ablator material in order to survive. So wingmates, up here in the corner, you can see that we have a resource called ablator, and that is our heat shield, parts of which will essentially vaporize, but at the same time protect our craft. That was my attempt at the Crazy Frog tune, Ultra Fluff stuff. I asked myself what was going on, and I immediately heard the mutilated tune of Axel F in my head. Cluttering the orbit with cluttering orbit with debris with Spacer. Yes, that is what we are doing. So let me see if I can thrust forward here a little bit using my RCS. Why are the systems not active the way I wanted them to be? Okay, there we go. There we go. We have finally disengaged. And we can now activate the engine. There we go. Alright, let's use some SAS. And how is our RCS? Our RCS is still behaving funny for some reason. Oh, I see. I turned off the thruster packs. Goodness me. Thruster block. Oh, okay. It has an inverse system. That is very interesting. So now the thruster blocks should be enabled. Although we don't really need this anymore, this is something I would like to be aware of. Okay. So let's see if RCS works the way I expect it to right now. No, it does not. I need to be very careful next time I design a craft, because disabling thruster blocks during construction is a bad idea. I will remember that to the end of my days. So let's turn off RCS and face retrograde. Alright, we are facing retrograde. And the moment we begin to see that there is a bit of plasma forming, we will jettison the lower stage. Actually, we may want to jettison the lower stage on. Thrust limiter is still on. Thank you very much, Makovict. I apologize. Thrust limiter to 100. There we go. That is why it was not working. And the thruster block is enabled. So let's double check our RCS. Thank you. Thank you, Makovict. Makovict. You have saved my sanity. I greatly appreciate it. Okay, I think... So our velocity is going to be quite insane at periapsis. So if we will be over... We will definitely be over 3,000 meters per second. Which is Mach 10 at the very least. If anything, we will probably be at around 3,500. So we will be going at incredible velocities. And I hope our ablator can handle this. Oh my, this is going to be an interesting atmospheric re-entry. Although we could actually do a braking burn right now. And simply guarantee that we will be landing correctly. In fact, why not do that? We have all of this reaction mass, why not burn it? There we go. We have quite a bit of Delta V, let's use it. And I really don't care where I recover it, because I'm not playing career mode. Alright, we are braking. As you can see, our apoapsis is dropping. So in theory, we could have actually done this by simply circularizing the orbit, and then dropping one of the apses down. However, at this point, it doesn't matter. We are going to hit Atmo no matter what we do. Right now, we're just saving ourselves some ablator material by doing a bit of a braking burn. Although we will still be impacting the atmosphere with incredible speeds. That is simply the nature of space travel. At least atmospheric re-entries like this. If you have enough Delta V, you in theory could brake to a complete standstill over a planet and descend vertically. I wouldn't recommend it because it is very fuel hungry. And if you have an atmosphere to break with, why not use it? But it is an option. Alright, so luckily the parachutes will not accidentally deploy right now because they are limited by the deployment parameters, which is why they are indicated as red on this staging block. Oh my goodness, we have gone supremely hypersonic. I'm gonna cut that and stage. Right, luckily we have more drag. Oh my goodness. Well, we were using that as ablator. So let's check out our... Okay, so ablator is slowly dropping. The rate of consumption is 0.37 per second of the ablator material. Oh, we are getting hot, but our velocity is dropping. Alright. Here we go. Now, I do not know if they have the airfoil effect for re-entry. One of the interesting things is, even if you take a capsule that is perfectly radially symmetrical like this, if you angle it a little bit, it will create an airfoil, because the way that the flows of plasma go across it, or the flows of the fluid that we are traveling in go across it, will now become uneven as long as you can maintain that sort of inclination. And thus you are able to steer a craft by inclining it. I believe in the Apollo missions, this was because the Apollo capsule itself had a disbalance that made it so that it was heavy on one side. And as long as you could rotate that disbalance, you could adjust the general facing of the craft. And I'm sorry that it is not daytime right now, but we are unfortunately going to land wherever we land. Let's see, so we are at 15 kilometers, and we are falling fast. Let me turn off SAS, so that the atmosphere has a wonderful rocking effect. Doobles is as calm as ever, completely unfazed, or perhaps unaware of the gravity of the situation that he is going through. Alright, we are in fact not even supersonic while approaching the surface. So we are falling rather slowly due to all of the drag. There's our capsule highlighted in green. Night deorbit is an aesthetic. Oh yes, indeed it is. And Doobles is having an amazing time indeed. So it is technically safe to open the parachute, but I like opening it very late because it saves time waiting for the capsule to completely land. Doobles has a will of iron, and I think Doobles will be treated as a hero. I believe Doobles spent over a month in orbit. Okay, we are at 3,000 meters. Let's pop the chutes. And with the background... Oh, camera auto. And with the background of the Milky Way and moon behind us, we finally descend onto the friendly soils and oceans of Kerbal itself. Sasuga Doobles indeed. Alright, allow me to take a screenshot of our victory here. I should have taken a screenshot of what we had before. But alas, I think this will have to suffice. Oh, and we are landing. I can't tell if this is the ocean or savannah. I guess we'll find out when we do splashdown. Oh, we are not going to use physics warp. Let's do time warp, because we are descending awfully slowly. Oh, thank you, Carmine. I would argue that perhaps among the global standards of Kerbal Space Program streamers, or anyone who plays with this game in sort of a deeper manner than I do, and has more of the mods, this was pretty sloppily executed. But I'm happy that we managed to get Doobles safely from orbit, especially from such an eccentric orbit that he was in. Alright, splashdown on the gentle Sanda. Yes. Oh, yep, we're going into the drink. Here comes the drink, 54 meters from surface. Here we come. Yep, it's gonna be the ocean. And we have touched down. Ooh, the Far Suns Coalition will be pleased with my liaison work. I have helped the Kerbals rescue their national hero. Oh my goodness, we have finally done it. Let me see if I can skip to sunrise so we can at least take a photo of our landed capsule. Click between above land and sea indicator to see if they match. If they do over water, if not land. Oh, I see, I see. Over space. There we go. Over sea versus space. Thank you for the tip, DB Crutch. That is greatly appreciated. Well, thank you, Wingmates. We have done it together, and thank you for everyone who gave tips. I greatly appreciate it. Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Oh, let's take a photo of this historic occasion, even though we are simply in the middle of nowhere, but just for the record. In fact, we're not going to have Doobles go outside. All right, we've taken a photo, and we can recover our vessel. And now Doobles is safe home for a ticker tape parade down a central avenue. And we didn't explode. We didn't have to actually revert to flight. And Doobles, Kerman, look at him. He is ready for his next assignment. He just spent a month with no food, water, or extra oxygen, or extra carbon dioxide scrubbing material. So, Doobles is an absolute fanatic. I am so impressed by Doobles. Doobles should really earn a promotion. I argue that it's not in the middle of nowhere, but a historic site, as the landing site of this historic mission. Carmine, I enjoy your attitude. That is exactly the way we should be looking at this. Thank you. Thank you for adjusting my parameters there. And thank you, Kimmy Spice. Yes, Doobles is the hero here. Doobles did all this work. All right, did we recover anything else? We didn't recover it because this is not career mode. All right, we have done it. The Kerbals are now safe. All right, let me get out of this simulation, and we can go to our space station for a bit of a debrief. Here we go. Thank you, Niwa. Doobles will be writing a novel on what it's like to live without oxygen, I expect. Ray, you are making the assumption that Doobles is literate. I think that is your first mistake. The data, I think, points to something other. Yes, Niwa, I am also glad that the mission went properly. What was the final product of the mech design yesterday? Oh, Gorion, yes, let me actually provide that link for anyone interested in the final product of the mech design, because I do know that Wingmates had to head out after a while. Let me take a look at my profile very quickly here. 1 second, please. I will provide that data shortly. Here it is. Here is the post. Here we go. There we are. So that is the final design of Melchior's mech. And while I still have these bot commands enabled, allow me to plug his Twitter and his channel. There it is. He's an excellent streamer. He's currently taking a little bit of a reprieve, but he will be back better than ever. And I think we can all be excited for his return. Point at Spaceman in tube. No. Keep your fingers off the glass. Do not tap the glass. Do I have to put a sign on it? Do not tap the glass. It's while I can hear it, and while I can drown out that sound, do not poke it. Do not poke it. Yes, it is an excellent melee option for Melchior's mech. I think it was important to make sure that he had a sword in addition to energy weapons. No tapping, please. Spacer moving around in Jello ASMR. Sloshing sounds. Sploosh, sploosh. Yes, indeed. One day I may do such a thing, but today is not the day. Oh, Little S. Oh, yes, welcome to the end of the convoy, Little S. It is good to see you. If somebody would like to plug Little S's Twitter, please feel free to do that, or his channel, whatever you find. But Little S is a PNG tuber of great renown, with so much variety, and of course fitness reps, which I cannot do in my condition, but Little S, despite having no arms or legs, can do his fitness reps. Spacer plastic glass licking ASMR. Oh goodness, I'm not quite ready for that. Please ask for my hand in marriage before we do anything like that. That is a little bit too intimate for just this old spacer. You detest this, Little S. I'm sorry. I must chill just a little bit. But I do this to you, not you do it to yourself. Thank you, everyone. That is much appreciated. What is your excuse, chat? Yes, thank you, Alaric. That is greatly appreciated. Let's see. Now, do I wish to stir the hive? I believe Ray asked me... Oh no! Amiko's stream died. I hope it comes back soon. Technical issues are always quite distressing. So, Ray, do I dare answer your question if Miss Sato is my favorite waifu of Evangelion? Well. The big question indeed. I will say this. Out of all of the potential candidates in the classic, I suppose, showdowns for waifus and Evangelion, I have great professional respect for Misato, and I think that if I were to actually be in the same sort of plane of existence as her, 20 years indeed we have been arguing, but I'm not arguing here, I am simply stating an opinion. I believe that Misato is the kind of individual that I would be most able to relate to. And I think that in essence solidifies that she is one. She is not my waifu. There are many candidates for waifu, but Misato is simply an individual I have both immense respect for, especially towards the end of this series as some of her more serious traits were revealed. But I also do feel bad for her. Many things happened in her life, and I'm not the kind of individual who would be able to help her with that. I think that she needs to find someone she truly loves, and that is... Or, you know what? No. She needs to find love within herself. I think that is what we need. And I can't give her that love, and neither could she give me the kind of love that I would need. So I think Misato is the closest individual to whom I would have, good conversation with. But in general, Evangelion does not have someone who I would consider perhaps a waifu for me. I would have to look at other franchises. But even so, I respect many characters, but my particular attraction to them is somewhat more professional in many ways. But yes, that is the long answer to that particular question, and I hope it is acceptable that I favor no waifu of Evangelion. The answer of a politician. Nice way. Well, it is a bit of a slithering around the landmines that my wingmates have laid in the path before me. But I will say that it is an honest answer. Misato is an interesting individual, but if I truly think about it, we are incompatible. So I'm not going to do anything. I now have a great need for a spacer waifu, but I will allow it. Tiptoeing around the issue, aren't you, Spacer? Slithering like a slug in a garden full of tomatoes, looking for the ripest one, avoiding the slug poison that the mistress of the house has laid out. Yes, Spacer, you are slime. I already do have the goo, indeed. Those are perfectly good landmines capable of maiming your body with shrapnel. Don't slither around them. Little less, I understand that you have many personal predilections towards certain components of anatomies and other things. But do you also have an interest in shrapnel? I'm not quite sure. I do not wish to be torn apart by explosives. A slug in a jar full of pickles. No! Please not. Please. I already have been reduced to a mere caricature of myself. Oh, goodness me. I prefer finely aged slugs myself. Preferably those with a business degree. Ah, Pig D6, a clever reference to Urara. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Pig, if you prefer that kind of slug, feel free to shill the slug. It is what she would have wanted, I think. So, Pig, you have my permission to shill that particular individual. Oh my goodness. You forgive my unsay-so chat spacer. I am being as diplomatic as possible as I could be, Ray, within the parameters of also not completely dodging the point. So, please forgive me for using the most diplomatic language that I can, but I am trying to keep my professionalism here. Only through professionalism can we obtain certain kinds of job security. Interlinked. Oh me, oh my. Okay. Well, I think that was a great rescue. It took a little while, simply due to all of the explanations, but and also due to some of my slow docking. What's up with the slimy chat right now? Yes, Pig. Thank you for providing her. She would love us plugging her in for free. Yes, that is Urara, the manager slug. Niwa, this is what we're doing now. No, it was fun. You saved our hero. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, Yukis. I'm glad for all of the wingmates who joined us on this little orbital journey. Everyone who lurked, everyone who participated, chat. You're all. I give you all my thanks and appreciation. I see there are mixed opinions about the manager slug. Well, feel free to click on that link, all of you who wish. And we had some very good links of interesting media and the like. So there's good material within chat history. Char is for making Space Noid. Slug is for yes, it's for that. I that is an opinion, Yukis. That is an opinion. Oh my goodness, my wingmates are wingmates. Make sure you stay out of the lock-on. It is not for you. Oh, Shady Guy, I'm glad that you're having a good time. Thank you for being with the convoy. Oh my goodness. Well, I have to fire off the escape capsule and leave my wingmates to be stuck inside of the wishful thinking to debate their various issues. Oh yes, the Windows RG. Yes, I will be watching that once I complete this data transmission. Firing thermal flares. Hopefully we won't get a lock-on. Alright everyone, let's figure out a raid. Who is online on Twitch at the moment? And I may also do a Kerbal raid, because I have had someone from Kerbal raid me, and I think they would be nice to return the favor to the Kerbal community. Let's see here. Oh, we've got quite a few folks streaming. Although, okay, you know what? I know I'm saying that I would like to raid a Kerbal stream, but at the same time, there is someone who I would like to personally raid quite a bit, and that is Paper Bag. I don't know if any of you have seen Paper Bag, but he is a very fascinating individual with a very wonderful and down-to-earth chat that draws me in quite a bit. Let's do someone playing DCS. Gorian, well, I am decided somewhat on Paper Bag because I feel like I really would love to send him a raid. You're of course free to go to anyone you want. Please, wingmates, never feel obligated to go on a raid. But what is DCS? I'm skipping out on the acronym right now. I'm having a bit of a moment. Yeah, thank you everyone for being around. I absolutely appreciate it. I would very much like to get torn apart on a molecular level after drifting into a black hole. Goodness, little S. Goodness, little S. You have some interesting desires. Oh, Digital Combat Simulator. I need to watch some of that. Thank you. I'm gonna actually punch that in to my data tablet so that I can save it for later. There we go. Fantastic. Oh yes, I will be looking into this. Thank you, Gorian. Okay. Well, I'm glad that there is interest in it. We'll see what happens. Maybe after I finish Free Space, I will do it. Alright, well, let's raid Paper Bag, because I think Paper Bag deserves it. He streams very regularly, and he is a very friendly individual when you talk to him. and he tries to respond to all of the comments and in such insightful ways. So I think let's do paper bag. I have wanted to raid my boy, and now is the opportunity to raid my boy. And he is doing Hollow Knight. Oh, I love the aesthetics of Hollow Knight. It's a very chill game. All right. Chill game, as the Terran kids would say. The cool kids. All right, raid paper bag channel. That's right, he's not. I need to get rid of the URL. I just need the channel name. There we go. And the raid is beginning. We should play it yourself. Download the A4 free mod. Oh, thank you for the tip, Gorian. I will keep that in mind. All right, everybody. The jump drives are charging up. We are getting negative energy readings. Excellent. All right, let me get the raid message out to you, wingmates. And this one should be agnostic to any emotes you may be using. Although feel free to modify it as you see fit. All of those emotes within the raid message, please feel free to substitute them with something appropriate. Warcry. I'm not aware of Warcry. Pig, if you would like, feel free to send me a... Oh, thank you, everyone. Thank you. I'm really glad you were around for this stream. But Pig, feel free to send me a whisper or a DM on Twitter. All right, wingmates. Let me go to the credits very quickly. I appreciate all of your time here. I think this was an excellent evening, and I look forward to more Kerbal. During the week, I will likely be doing Homeworld 1 Classic, the original, with the difficult UI. I will be doing Free Space, and I will likely be doing Brigador, amongst other things. All right, the raid is almost up. Keep your propellant tanks topped off, make sure calculations are correct, and fly safe. Good luck with the raid, everyone. I will see you on the other side. Oh, raid message again. Here you go. Here you go. All right. Good luck, everyone.